Part 45. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 442. Lichenkin's anger, which had just subsided, slowly came back to his heart. He was about to speak, but Lily gave him a look of helplessness. "What did your Highness say?" "I used to have misunderstandings about Jinsin. I only thought he did charming things to seduce His Highness, so I was very unhappy with him. But today, when I got in touch with Jinsin, I found that he is sincere and kind. No wonder His Highness likes him. I also feel that the handsome husband is not like an ordinary boy. Now that I have no hatred for him, how can I still harm him?" The more Lily said, the more Li Changqian felt that something was wrong, but after all, it was he couldn't tell what was wrong, so Lily continued, "I will go to Mr. Jinsin's palace to play with him more in the future. This afternoon, I really feel that I still have more to do than I want to." The strange feeling in Lichenkin's heart deepened. His eyes fell on Lily's face that he had seen very familiarly in the past, but he was a little horrified to find that Lily's cheeks were flushed, her eyes were twitching, and she lowered her head when she said this. With her head tilted, her chin almost touched her towering chest. She was now arranging her coat more slowly. Her eyelids were drooping lightly, and her eyelashes were trembling. This look was clearly that of the woman from the prince's East Palace who was watching. The shy look she showed when she came to him. Thinking of Lily's usual dislike of Jinsin and always having a bad look when mentioning him, Li Changqian now looked at Lily's shy expression when mentioning Jinsin, and Li Changqian suddenly felt like he was about to be covered by a green cloud. He now remembered that although Jinsin was handsome, he was still a boy. As her male favorite, it does seem a little inconvenient to stay in the palace. Lily has never shown such an expression when she saw him. Even if she said she liked him before, she never looked shy. When he mentioned Cheng Xian, his eyes became watery. Li Changqian didn't know what he felt in his heart at this moment. He only felt a feeling of sourness and dissatisfaction welling up in his heart. At this moment, he seemed to dislike everything in front of him. "I can only use a long whip in my hand to smash the things in front of me. You, what's so fun?" Li Changqian used to look righteous even when he did something wrong, but now he stuttered when he opened his mouth. Lily raised her eyes. "Why isn't it fun?" "Your Highness. Don't you like to play with your sweetheart the most on weekdays?" One sentence made Li Changqian speechless. After snorting coldly, he went out angrily. Lily ignored him and went into the side hall to make 2 modern fried junk foods. Such things tasted good, she had intermediate cooking skills, and the fried food was simple. Conveniently, she almost didn't do anything herself. Soon he came out with a plate of fried chicken legs, but Li Changqian looked very worried at this moment. It was just that when Lily served him a meal, he ate 2 extra chicken drumsticks as a courtesy. Seeing that he had almost eaten, when the 2 of them sent the palace people out, Lily practiced martial arts with Li Changqian, and started talking about satisfaction, happiness, 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 and croaking. Li Changqian was very annoyed by this. "I also like it very much." Normally, he was happy to hear his guards and entourage praise him, but now Li Changqian suddenly felt a little heartbroken after hearing Lily's praise. It seemed that he was about to fall out of favor in front of Lily. He, the majestic prince of the Tang dynasty, would inherit Li Shimon's throne and become the lord of the world. Could it be that he was no better than a little bastard? Li Changqian glanced at Lily speechlessly. When Lily was talking about Yingxin's beautiful appearance, he finally couldn't hold it back and interrupted Lily. "Well, women are just superficial, with long hair and short knowledge. A plaything is worth talking about in your mouth all the time." Lily pursed her lips, with a look of grievance on her face, which made Li Changqian even more irritated. "I have been busy studying in the past few days. Don't mention these small things in front of me. Did His Highness encounter any difficulties recently, Lily saw that the heat of the day was almost over, and Li Changqian was going to fall out if he continued to tease her, so she gave up and started to ask about his studies. I originally wanted to send some concubines for His Highness today. I made the pastries myself, but I didn't expect that His Highness was not in the palace. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have thrown away the pastries. I could have brought them to Mr. Satisfied's palace for him to enjoy. After finally bringing the topic to him, he didn't expect Lily to turn around and mention Ying Xian again. Li Changqian was furious. Just as he was about to speak, Lily leaned over again and said softly, "Your Highness, have you found it difficult to study with Mr. Yu recently?" Humph! Li Changqian snorted coldly and did not reach out to push Lily away. Thinking about it, he felt a little angry. He grabbed her into his arms, grabbed her wrist and took a bite. "It's just homework, how can it be rare? Falling alone? It's just that I don't want to learn." Obviously, he had teased Li Changqian too much today. This time, there was a tooth mark on Lily's originally shiny wrist. Li Changqian took a breath when he saw her, and started rubbing her hand again. Although he has been doting on the pretty girl recently, however, in the final analysis, he was just greedy for being beautiful and having a coquettish mouth. Li Changqian was not inseparable from Chinsin later because he was holding him in his arms and his figure was much better after giving birth. Subei's body, which had improved a lot before, suddenly felt a little distraught. Lily's body was as soft as if there were no bones. This special figure that only women have is not comparable to that of a rigid boy like Russian. In Lichenkin's heart, as soon as he moved, his hand touched Lily's waist, and Lily sat aside, avoiding his movement, and said seriously, "I know that your Highness is very talented and intelligent, but please forgive me for saying it bluntly. Your Highness is lacking in everything now, but he lacks some patience. If your Highness can listen to Yu Heining's lectures in the school for 4 hours every day, I can actually help His Highness out an idea." Li Changqian was intrigued by her, leaned his head over and raised his brows. "Oh. Isn't His Highness dissatisfied with what King Wei said about your legs before?" Lily already knew what Li Changqian was thinking. He was not only dissatisfied with Li Tai for saying that he had a bad leg, but also hated Li Tai for keeping an eye on his position as the crown prince behind his back. Although the two brothers are from the same mother, they have long-standing grudges. Both sides want to step on each other. Although Li Changqian was not as quick as he wanted to get rid of Li Tai later, when he heard Li Tai's name, he still felt unable to feel any good feelings. His face darkened. He had no intention of hiding anything in front of Lily, and simply nodded. "What do you have in mind?" "The saint loves King Wei, your Highness might as well do this." He motioned Li Changqian to lean her ear over and whispered her idea in his ear. "Your Highness just needs to take the class seriously and win the favor of the two adults. I will ask you for help when the time comes. Your Majesty pretended to read a few of your books to make King Wei think that he could take advantage of the opportunity and express his feelings in front of the saint." Lily's idea was not complicated, she just asked Li Changqian to obey Yu Heining and satisfy them. Although he could stand on his side, he pretended to be unworthy of the crown prince. Li Tai had already been thinking about the throne. Knowing this result, he would definitely jump out to fight for the crown prince's position. All Lily had to do was to let him and Li Zhi they kill each other, and when the time comes, Li Changqian will wait until the two of them fight to the death and then take advantage of the fishman. This is similar to Li Zhi in the plot. In the early stage, Li Zhi pretended to be cowardly and incompetent, letting himself go. The two brothers Li Tai and Li Changqian fought to the death. In the end, all he had to do was go to Li Shimin and complain, and the throne would be at his fingertips. If Li Zhi was as weak as shown in history, how could he have an affair with Li Shimin's talents when Li Shimin was seriously ill? It is impossible for people born in the royal family to be truly pure and extraordinary. What Lily wants Li Changqian to do now is to let him show his weakness at this time, and then he can just imitate Li Zhi and take advantage of him, and he can take advantage of him without any effort. As good as it is, people like Li Ji who seem to be weak are actually the ones who are really smart without revealing anything. People like Li Chengqian who look fierce on the outside and have the highest status, but unfortunately end up miserable and think they are smart are the only ones. Is the really stupid one. After hearing Lily's idea, Li Chengqian couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. He should have known that Lily was not a dull and boring wooden beauty when Lily gave him the idea to treat Yu Haining, but now he heard Lily came up with such an idea for him, and Li Chengqian began to feel wonderful. He was originally prepared to send someone to assassinate his younger brother if Li Tai kept going against him, but at present, it seemed that Lily had a better idea, killing people with a borrowed knife, and letting the two people who wanted to steal his throne go. The younger brother goes to fight to the death, but in the end he jumps out to inherit the throne, not to mention that he can also use the strength of the two younger brothers to weaken him. Such a method sounds a bit underhanded, and is inconsistent with the noble way of a gentleman taught by the great Confucianists in the past. But Li Chengqian liked this method better. He didn't have to have his hands stained with the blood of his loved ones, and he didn't have to feel ashamed of the deceased Empress Chang Sun. Li Chengqian suddenly began to feel that he looked at Lily differently. In the past, he had a bad temper and couldn't calm down. Everyone either suggested stupid ideas to him or tried to persuade him to behave himself. Li Chengqian wouldn't listen at all. On the contrary, whenever he heard other people say these words, he would even think about it. He was a little disgusted, but at this time he began to like Lily's insidious way. Li Chengqian suppressed his inner satisfaction and still maintained a nonchalant look on his face. Then, how do you know, Yu Haining will the two of them help the orphan? To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 443. Since Li Chengqian asked this question, it shows that he is actually very willing at this time. As long as he is willing, Lily has many ways to force him to relax. Your Highness, just don't worry. As long as Your Highness abides by the agreement, please use the matter of helping Ning and the two will naturally be left in my hands. Yu Haining are stubborn and rigid conservatives. These two people are indifferent, and sometimes they don't even buy Li Shiman's account. For such people, there is only one thing that can cure them, and that is to be famous throughout history. If Li Chengqian ascends the throne in the future, they will be able to live a prosperous life despite their status as imperial masters. In addition, they are not asked to do anything that damages their reputation. They are just hiding Li Chengqian's hard work, and they are not hiding it from Li Shiman. Lily is 80% sure that she can convince them about Li Chengqian's settlement. For some reason, Li Chengqian liked Lily's confident look more and more. He coughed and high-fived Lily, and the agreement between the two was finalized. After the business was settled, Lily began to stimulate Li Chengqian again. She deliberately called the palace servants to come in to look for colorful clothes for her. In the past, she always dressed plainly in front of Li Chengqian, but now Len may as well start looking for beautiful clothes. Li Chengqian thought she was a girl who pleased him and wanted to dress up for him. He was so happy that he wanted to stay the night today, but unexpectedly Lily said, "Your Highness, why don't you find another place to practice tomorrow morning? I will follow you tomorrow." We made an appointment to play in his palace. After guessing for a long time, he didn't expect that Lily was not dressing up for himself at all. Li Chengqian was a little angry at first and wanted to leave according to his past personality. But at this moment, his steps couldn't move for some reason. His face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. He sat there and watched Lily directing the palace people to rummage through the cabinets to find clothes and jewelry. His face became more and more gloomy. Lily felt that his eyes were always on her. However, at this moment, he was not prepared to take advantage of him at all. Human nature is destined to cherish things the harder they are to get. Subehi used to be Li Chengqin's wife, and he could have it whenever he wanted. Therefore, he didn't cherish it. Lily pretended to have just discovered Li Chengqian, looked back at him, and said in surprise, "Why is your highness still here?" In the past, he would run to the place he wanted when the time came, but today it was rare that he didn't want to leave, but Lily had a driving tone. Li Chengqian was furious. Even if he wanted to stay, he couldn't keep his face off now. He could only snort and go out with a gloomy face. When the guard asked him if he wanted to go to the Yang's inside hall, he didn't know why. Of Li Chengqin's eyes flashed back to the scene when Lily was looking for clothes, and he snorted coldly. Distraught, he went back to his bedroom where he had not been alone for a long time. For several days in a row, when Li Chengqian came to Lily Palace, Lily was either not there or was lukewarm to him. When he opened his mouth, he said wrong xin how. Li Chengqian used to think that wrong xin how was good, but now when he heard the name Cheng xin how, it felt inexplicably harsh. Lily had been infatuated with him before. When he came to the palace, he was not only looking for a cure for his leg, but also practicing martial arts with him. Now, just a few days have passed, and she has almost forgotten what happened between the two of them. This huge gap makes Li Chengqian a little unbearable, but for some reason, he now likes to run to the Lily Palace. Every time he went there he would get very angry, but like a self-flagellation, he would still go there every morning and evening. Instead, he no longer had to send someone to remind Lily when he sometimes forgot. Tell me, why are women so fickle? After Li Chengqian went to Lily Palace again and was invited out by her with both soft and hard tactics, facing the cool breeze at night, Li Chengqian suddenly felt a sad feeling of being rejected. He doesn't want to go anywhere at the moment. He is furious at the thought of Ruyi. The other women seem to be boring compared to Lily. He has been alone in the empty boudoir for many days recently, hiding in the palace all day long. There has been a significant change from the previous life of revelry, and at the same time, his overall temperament is also different from before. After staying away from drinking and sex, his legs have been healed again. His face looks much better, and his cheeks are plumper. The gloom between his brows was swept away, and he actually looked a bit handsome. In addition, Li Chengqian had been practicing martial arts recently, and his body was much better than before. Under the influence of internal force, his height was longer than before, and his height had faded. He lost some of his previous childishness and looked much more mature and steady. Several guards glanced at each other and said in unison, "Your Highness, the relationship between the Crown Princess and her husband has become much better recently, which is also a good thing. The Crown Princess likes her husband, which is a blessing for your Highness. Your Highness, why don't you go to Mr. Chinsin and ask him to play a piece of music for your Highness?" Hagen Jikan and others thought about Lily's instructions, and spoke bravely, emphasizing the words "the Crown Princess likes Mr. Chinsin." Li Chengqian was even more furious when he heard it, and shouted, "Bastard, how can a lonely princess like a foreigner? Yuxin is already 13 this year. How can an unclean eunuch in the harem walk around freely?" The more Li Chengqian thought about it, the angrier he became, and several guards covered him up in unison. Lower body, all of them were scolded so badly that they responded repeatedly, but they were crying in their hearts. They didn't know when Lily would let them go. In fact, they didn't want to be so annoying. They knew that the prince didn't want to hear the name of Rengzin at this time, but they still mentioned it. But this was Lily's order. Thinking of the Crown Princess who had changed a lot now, and seeing Li Chengqian who was not taking advantage of the Crown Princess now, the guards became more determined to listen to Lily's words. After scolding for a long time, Li Chengqian finally returned to the palace in despair. Now he felt as if he had been abandoned by the whole world. As a dignified prince, he felt like he had nowhere to go every day. In the past, he played the game of pretending to be a Turk. At this time, after Li Chengqian practiced martial arts, he had to admit that he was really stupid and naive before. He would rather practice martial arts a few more times to strengthen his body when he was free than to mess around with the Han Wang Li Yuan Chang and other bad friends. In addition to practicing martial arts every day, Li Chengqian unexpectedly, he felt that the unbearable homework in the past had now become a good thing to pass the time. He began to turn his grief and anger into strength and focused on studying. This surprised and delighted both Yu Haining and Kong Yingde. They felt that Li Chengqian was like this. The useless seedling finally showed promise, and the dog changed his temper and stopped eating shit. The two of them were more serious about teaching than before, and their attitude towards Li Chengqian was much better than before. At this time, Chen Xin, who was jealous of Li Chengqian, was living in dire straits. Recently, Li Chengqian seemed to be neglecting him, and the crown princess had gone crazy for some reason. She suddenly targeted him and came here every day. She played hide and seek with him all day every day. The princess didn't know where she got such energy, chasing him all over the yard all day long. Shengzin was so tired every day that when Lily walked away, it seemed that she couldn't even see her. It seemed that his hands and feet no longer belonged to him, and he had to be supported by the palace servants before he could go to bed. When he opened his eyes, Lily would appear in his yard again. At this time, Chen Xin began to deeply regret that he had been with the Prince Li Chengqian that day. There is nothing wrong with playing, but he wants to play hide and seek. If Lily continues like this, she will no longer play with him, but will openly play with him. Chen Ji wanted to complain to the prince several times, but for some reason, Li Chengqian didn't come to his courtyard for several days in a row. In the past, when he wanted to see Li Chengqian, he just asked someone to pass on a message, but recently it seemed that the guard who was passing on the message had given up. He didn't know if he had a few nice words for him in front of the prince. He couldn't see Li Chengqian's face, and he couldn't complain to him about how bad he treated him. Chen Xin sometimes thought about it and was filled with grievances. Prince, what do you want? If you don't come back, you will be tortured to death by the crown princess. Li Chengqian and Chen Xian are extremely affectionate in the plot. Even the two people who live together and eat together feel very miserable at the moment. The only one who thinks it is fun is Lily. She can open her eyes every day. Li Chengqian was so angry that he couldn't get out of his stomach. After eating and drinking enough, he could still play with the little goblin Zongzin. Especially the process of convincing Yu Haining and the two of them was unexpectedly easy. Li Chengqian recently inadvertently, when he played with the 9-palace arithmetic taught by Lily in his spare time, it attracted the attention of two old-fashioned men. After knowing the principles of numbers, these two old men were immediately attracted and spent less time lecturing with Li Chengqian every day. The rest of the time, Li Chengqian taught them how to play Jagaga. The deteriorating relationship between them quickly began to mend. After Lily asked the two to conceal the news that Li Chengqian was making progress, the two agreed after a slight hesitation. Come down. After all, what they are doing is just reporting worries rather than good news. I believe that Li Shimin will not blame them if he finds out about it in the future. Instead, he will think that they have taught Li Chengqian well, and maybe they will be rewarded heavily and gain nothing. It was a convenient offer from Yishan, but now that the two of them had a good relationship with Li Chengqian, they were really embarrassed to refuse it. In the past, Li Chengqian had planned to send out to assassinate the guards raised by Li Tai and others. Now Lily no longer allowed them to act rashly. What they were asked to do every day was to go out and say bad things about Li Chengqian inadvertently, especially between Li Tai and Li Ji. In front of the brothers, half a month passed by. As expected, Li Tai and Li Ji had turned against each other several times. Even if Li Shimin continued to favor Li Tai and the palms and backs of his hands were full of flesh, he could not help but start thinking about his future successor. Question comes. Logically speaking, If Li Chengqian's character is not distorted and he remains as smart and motivated as he was when he was young, it goes without saying that the great river of the Tang dynasty will definitely be handed over to him in the future. However, now that Li Chengqian is becoming more and more ineffective, his successor selection, only the remaining 2 legitimate sons can be placed on it. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 444. Li Shimin had a deep affection for the deceased Empress Chang Sun. Even if he never thought of choosing Li Tang's kingdom from his other sons in the future, it goes without saying that this kingdom would definitely be handed over to the son left behind by Empress Chang Sun. He was originally, some people put their hope in Li Tai. After all, this son is smart and capable, and he is undoubtedly much better than Li Ji, who has a weaker personality. However, recently Li Ji seemed to have complained in his ear, saying that Li Tai had warned him secretly. This had to make Li Shimin wary. In addition to the way he was thinking about heirs, he also hoped that his sons could save their lives. Li Chengqian has been the crown prince for more than 10 years. If he makes Li Tai the crown prince, given the ruthless personality of this son, the lives of his other 2 sons born to Empress Chang Sun will be in danger. If Li Tai, who is weak in character, is appointed Ji, then maybe the prince can save his life, and Li Tai can also survive. After struggling for a long time, although Li Shimin did not officially express his intention to depose the prince, he was obviously more strict with Li Ji than before, leading him to, instead of just doting on him before, he began to consciously teach him some truths about the sufferings of the people. He was deeply afraid that Li Ji would end up like Li Chengqian, born in a deep palace, raised in the hands of a woman, and finally raised as a waste. So I really put a lot of thought into him. As for the favored King Li Tai of Wei in the past, after Li Shimin gave him a fief, he reluctantly sent his son to the fief. Once Li Tai was sent out of Chang'an City, Lily knew that her little trick had been successful and her serious problem had been solved. Li Shimin's original consideration of making Li Ji his heir was a helpless move. Li Tai has been driven away by now. If the news that Li Chengqian suddenly changed his ways reached Li Shimin's ears at this time, then Li Ji's dream of becoming a prince will naturally be shattered, but before that, she still needs to solve her problem first. In the past 2 months, Lily has been playing with Cheng Xian every day, which made Li Chengqian's hatred for Cheng Xian reach an unprecedented level. He wonders if the things he can't get are the best. In the past, he felt that Lily Su was dull, clumsy, and not good at words, and he didn't really regard her as a couple who could compare with him in the future, but now Lily became eloquent and understood his thoughts, which made him look at her with special eyes. Even after she liked it a little, she no longer saw only herself in her eyes, and she no longer mentioned only herself. Li Chengqian even began to hope that if the current Lily becomes what she used to be, she will only have herself in her heart, and she will still be the same as she is now. It would be nice to hate the satisfaction. The day his younger brother Li Tai was ordered to be sent out of the capital by Li Shimin, Li Chengqian knew that Lily's idea for him was done. He happily ran to Lily Palace. He was originally going to share the news with her, but he entered the palace in time. But the people in the palace stopped him. "Your Highness, the Crown Princess is taking a bath at the moment. Your Highness, why not sit down for a while and wait for a while?" As soon as Li Chengqian heard that Lily was taking a bath, he immediately remembered that he had seen Lily a few times in the past 6 months when her body was naked. He had not been close to a woman for several months, let alone a woman. Male lust. Ever since Lily fell in love with Shen Xian, Li Chengqian suddenly found that men made him a little off-putting, especially when the boy who originally slept next to him suddenly might one day wear a green hat for himself. After taking off the hat, the feeling became more intense. He had never abstained from sex for such a long time since he was saved. At this moment, just by imagining it, Lichenkin's Adam's apple slid and his saliva almost flowed out. He stood up and wanted to walk in. He could go to the palace maids and eunuchs who were afraid of him. Maybe they had seen that he had changed too much in the past few months and were not as afraid of him as before, so they actually stretched out their hands to stop him. Waiting for Li Changqian to calm down with a face, the guards pulled away the group of palace people, and when she rushed directly into the back hall, Lily had already put her wet hair on her head and was wearing a long skirt that stretched to the floor and got up from the pool. At this moment, she had wet hair and soaked the satin and pressed it tightly against her body. So Lily was not bad in appearance. After giving birth, her figure was slightly plumper than before. However, due to Lily's martial arts practice, her figure the proportions were just right. Li Changqian had already had thoughts about her at this moment. When he saw Lily, a beauty who looked like she just got out of the bath, appearing in front of him, he couldn't help but rush towards her. Lao came forward and picked her up. Lily had already guessed that Li Changqian wouldn't be able to bear it for long, so she had already prepared a response for this. When Li Changqian rushed into the inner hall, the guards outside all looked at each other. Remembering what Lily had told them before, they shouted loudly, "Your Highness, your beloved husband calls you over." Several guards shouted loudly in unison, and the veins on Lichenkin's forehead jumped. Lily pushed him and slipped out of his arms like a loach, making a show of force. Even though he was getting dressed, he also rushed out, "Your Highness, there may be something wrong with Jinsin. Let's go and take a look." At this moment, Li Changqian was so angry that he didn't care about calling him. He rushed towards Lily and stretched out his hand to catch her tightly by one wrist. He turned around and shouted fiercely, "Get out of here." Lily's soul floated up, and when she saw Li Changqian in the palace below, he was so anxious that he didn't even bother to carry Lily's body back to the bed, and directly suppressed her on the bathtub. In the past, when Li Changqian was asked to leave by Zhengzin, he always did not hesitate. He could turn around and leave. Now Li Changqian had been alone in the empty room for several months without seeing Jinsin. Even the guards' deliberate shouting could not bring his heart back. Lily knew that Jinsin had fallen out of favor. In the plot, the Li Changqian who was overly sad after being executed by Li Shimin because of Jinsin, and who had a true relationship with Jinsin, is gone forever now that Lily has a hand in it. When he returned to the body again, it was already almost noon on the second day. Li Changqian went to the side hall to study with great satisfaction early in the morning. Not long after he woke up and changed his clothes, there was a call from the palace to Li Changqian from outside. The sound of greeting. Ping Shen. Li Changqian was in a good mood today, humming the tune of an opera when he spoke. When he entered the inner hall and saw Lily, his ears were a little red, but he was still tired of it. After practicing martial arts, Lichenkin's health was better than before. Plus Lily's body was also well conditioned by Lily. Therefore, after the spring breeze passed last night, Li Changqian obviously had a lot of aftertaste at this moment. The corners of his eyes and eyebrows had the feeling of a young man in love. He saw Lily sitting in the mirror. The man with the forehead decoration on his front actually volunteered. "I'll draw it for you." Lily's eyes flickered when she saw him, and there was a hint of blush on her cheeks. She was less arrogant and sinister than before. At this time, Li Changqian looked much gentler and more pleasant to the eyes. She motioned to the palace attendant to hand over the rouge pen. When she was about to speak, Li Changqian had been staring at her for a long time, and suddenly he held her face and kissed her heavily on the forehead. At that moment, Lily's body froze, as if an invisible big hand almost tore her soul away. Just like Lily's body, it returned to its previous appearance in an instant. Li Changqian had just stolen a piece of incense in front of a group of palace people. At this moment, He was happy and a little embarrassed, and he didn't notice the look on Lily's face at that moment. He was stiff, his eyes were full of doubt and concentration, and just when the pen tip in his hand fell on Lily's forehead, there was a sudden noise outside, followed by a sharp cry. Your Highness, have you forgotten your wish? Lichenkin's hand holding the pen suddenly trembled with fright. The cinnabar in his hand scratched the lily's forehead. He was originally going to draw plum petals, but now he just drew flowers. The smile on the corner of Lichenkin's mouth, he immediately retracted his intention, his face suddenly became terrifyingly gloomy, the veins on the back of his hand almost jumped, and with the force of his hand, the brush in his palm broke with a click. Your Highness, have you forgotten Cheng Xin? Have you no longer doted on Cheng Xin? Under the peach blossom tree, Your Highness. The shrill cries of Jinsin outside the hall were getting louder and louder. The softness in the room when he usually spoke could already reveal the hoarseness of a boy. As he grew older, he shouted regardless of his image, and the voice was directly heard. It was so creepy that Lichenkin's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He snorted coldly and was about to walk out. Lily showed a smile at the corner of her mouth and followed Li Changqian out of the hall. At this moment, Chenzi has been stopped by several guards. It seems that several guards are trying to persuade him to leave temporarily, but he is unwilling to give up. Now he is fighting with people desperately, looking like a shrew, and several guards are like they were trying to stop him, but they tore the colorful outer clothes on his body into pieces, making him look very embarrassed. In recent months, Lily has been playing hide and seek with Jinsin every day. His cheeks have a healthy blush. He has even grown taller due to the exercise. Lily has recently ordered people to deliver meals to Jinsin. It is greasy and spicy food such as big fish and meat, but it is also good for rice. These foods are delicious at first. Before he was satisfied, he ate a lot due to daily work and did not feel anything bad. However, as time went by, he began to have pimples on his cheeks. Some acne came over, and the clothes he was wearing were sewn by Lily and Mrs. Suyan from the expensive and thick fabrics in the East Palace. Young Xian's temperament was originally delicate, but if he wore plain decorations, he would definitely look weak and noble. But at this time, when lined with expensive clothes, the whole person's temperament and age cannot suppress the gorgeous color, and it can't help but look a bit tacky. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 445. Perhaps the impression of Jinsin in Lichenkin's mind has been fixed in the past. Although Li Changqian was a little angry and dissatisfied because of Beihi's recent behavior of always accompanying Jinsin, in Lichenkin's heart, Jinsin was still unparalleled in beauty. At this time, Len might as well see Jinsin in red. Green, his face was so oily that Li Changqian couldn't help but be startled. First, he felt a little nauseous when he thought that he had pampered him so much before. Then he became happy again. With the appearance of Jinsin, he was no longer the one Lily had praised. The outstanding young man, all the resentment that had accumulated in his heart for a long time was wiped away. Li Changqian couldn't help but grin silently. The anger that he had felt after being disturbed by Jinsin slowly calmed down. Down. Why are you making so much noise here? Are there any rules? Li Changqian scolded him. When he favored Wengzhen in the past, he would come and leave whenever he wanted. Someone had never talked to him about the rules, but now Li Changqian had already changed in his heart. It became more and more unpleasant to see him. Seeing him dare to break into Lily's palace at will, a sense of crisis couldn't help but surge into his heart. Now that Yuxin is getting older, Lily has always appreciated him, and has been talking to him recently. When they get along, Li Changqian is really afraid that if something happens between Zongzin and Beihi one day, he won't be able to accept it at all. Thinking of this, a murderous intention flashed through Lichenkin's heart, and his eyes became cold. Your Highness, Your Highness, is it possible that your Highness is no longer satisfied? Chinsin hadn't seen Li Changqian for several months, and she had already accumulated a lot of grievances in her heart. In addition, Lily has been giving him a lot of trouble recently, and his legs are as heavy as lead when he runs every day, but he still has no way to complain. Today, for some reason, the crown princess did not come to trouble him, and she found someone to satisfy her. After some inquiring, it seemed that the guards who had always prevented him from leaving the side hall in the past had been negligent today and kindly told him the news that Li Changqian stayed at the crown princess's palace last night, which made Yuxin feel jealous. Unable to bear it any longer, he ran directly towards Lily. Chen Xian has been waiting for His Highness for several months, but His Highness has never come once. The crown princess tortures Chen Xian every day. If your Highness doesn't come to see you, Chen Xian will be tortured to death by the crown princess. Thinking of these days, he was forced to play hide and seek with Lily every day. Chinsin couldn't help but take out a silk handkerchief from her arms and began to wipe her tears. Li Changqian felt goosebumps all over his body when he saw his effeminate appearance. Lily never cried in front of him, but now that he thought about it, even though she had found an ancient prescription for him, he had not fulfilled his promise to enter her palace sooner or later. During practice, no matter how sad she was, she would just lower her head and say nothing. But when Li Changqian thought about Lily's sadness at that time, he felt it was extra precious. It was precisely because people who never cried rarely showed a fragile expression that they were particularly pitiful. Like Chinsin, who cried like a baby with snot in his nose. Tears, but he is still a man. Li Changqian's temperament has changed a lot during his recent martial arts practice, and his legs are now healed. He is also learning the ways of an emperor, and has the hope of inheriting the Tang dynasty in the future. I no longer give up on myself as before. In addition, in the past few months, I have been far away from what I want, so my feelings have naturally faded. Last night, he held Lily's body in his arms and felt warm all night again. Compared with the boy's body, Li Changqian liked the soft body of a woman. Originally, he was dissatisfied with his heart, but then he looked like he was crying. Li Changqian was both disgusted and grinning. He pointed at him and turned to Lily, "Look, look, a man should be as lonely as a man. He would rather bleed but never shed tears." He wanted to show his heroic and fearless side to Lily, but the people around him twitched when he heard this. With such an ancestor, who in the East Palace would dare to eat the bear's heart and the leopard's guts, hurt him and make him bleed? Li Changqian didn't know what others were thinking at the moment, but the more he looked at Chinsin, the more he disliked him. Chinsin originally came to complain to him. Although Li Changqian hadn't been to his palace for several months recently, he didn't know if Li Changqian had always doted on him in the past. Although Chinsin had a premonition that he had fallen out of favor, he comforted himself when he asked about Li Changqian being alone in the palace these days and not summoning other concubines. But at this time, he really saw Li Changqian. When he ignored his crying, Jinsinke was immediately dumbfounded. "Your Highness. It seems to me that Chinsin is just a little anxious." Lily originally just wanted to make Chinsin fall out of favor and send him back to Taikang Temple in the future, but she didn't expect that Chinsin was so bold that he actually had the courage to sue her. Lily, there was a bit of coldness in his eyes, but he pretended to plead for Chen Xian. "Why don't your Highness listen to what Chen Xian is worried about, and then make a decision?" The feeling of losing favor was like a huge mountain weighing on Chen Xian's heart. He was already extremely anxious, and he felt that Lily was responsible for all this. Now when he heard Lily speak for him, Chen Xian couldn't help but feel grateful. Instead, he became so angry that he almost jumped up, pointed at Lily and shouted, "There is no need for you to pretend to be kind, Weivue. If it weren't for you, how could His Highness treat me like this, Your Highness?" There was a hint of gloom between Li Changqian's brows and eyes. Before Chen Xian finished speaking, He kicked Chen Xian hard in the chest. "You humble maid, you don't know the difference between superiority and inferiority. I have raised your courage in the past." Lily's pleas for Chen Xian were like adding fuel to the fire, which made Li Chengqian increasingly unhappy with Chen Xian. After he kicked Chen Xian, he was still a little angry. "Drag this bitch down and give her 20 sticks. Chen Xin originally came to complain today. He originally thought that he could regain Li Chengqian's attention and return to the days when he and Li Chengqian were dependent on each other. There would be no neglect from Li Chengqian every day, and there would be no lessons for Li Chengqian to learn now. He would not. He likes change. Now that Li Chengqian's legs have healed, his person has also changed. If he has a body like his, he may not be able to withstand even 10 sticks, but Li Chengqian wants to hit him with 20 sticks. This is clearly killing him." Qingqing's life was what she wanted, but she didn't expect that when she came to dote on her today, she didn't get it, but instead lost Qingqing's life. She immediately blinked and passed out softly. In the plot, he was beaten to death by Li Shimin. At this time, Li Chengqian personally ordered him to be beaten to death. Lily cried twice more as if she was frightened. Li Chengqian pretended to comfort her, but he felt a sense of relief in his heart that he had eliminated a serious problem in his heart. After getting rid of a potential enemy like Chen Xin, and making sure that Li Chengqian and his son would not turn against each other because of a little boy, Lily also breathed a sigh of relief. The relationship between Li Chengqian and her gradually became harmonious. After this period of time, get along with each other. He could clearly feel that Li Chengqian's heart was slowly setting on her at this time. Almost everyone in the East Palace knew about the close relationship between the prince and the princess. The former sweetheart was naturally also known by others. Forgotten in the corner. In the 15th year of Zhengguan, more than a year after Wei King Li Tai was sent out of Chang'an, both Yu Haining and Kong Yingde wrote letters to praise Li Chengqian. This was several years after Li Shimin sent 2 veterans to the East Palace to teach Li Chengqian. It was the first time that the 2 of them praised their sons. No one knew better than Li Shimin what kind of character these 2 ministers had. They had bad tempers and were stubborn, and sometimes when they became stubborn, they would not even care about their own face. People. Although he did not believe that these 2 veterans were bribed by Li Chengqian, the eldest son had too many misdeeds in the past. Although the East Palace has always kept it well hidden, what kind of person Li Shimin is, he has naturally heard about Li Chengqian's past actions. Later, he just wanted to stay out of sight and never went to the East Palace again. Li Shimin didn't believe that that person looked like that the sullen eldest son would change, so when he received the message from Yu Haining and the others, he went to the East Palace in private. In the East Palace, Li Chengqian had just practiced martial arts with Lily for half an hour. In the past 2 years, Li Chengqian seemed to have been reborn, and martial arts was indeed useful to him. Not only did it strengthen his body, but it also dispelled the coldness in his legs that had been in his body since he was born. Not only is his height now much longer than 2 years ago, but his temperament has also undergone earth-shaking changes. In order to see if his son had really changed, Li Shimin deliberately didn't let anyone know. When he found out that the prince was in the princess's palace at this time, he asked someone to light a lamp along the way. He happened to see Li Chengqian holding his son in his arms. Li Xiang, who is over 2 years old, is playing with Lily on the 9-square grid. Lily had aroused his interest with Jagaga. In Li Chengqian's mind, Jagaga was undoubtedly a token of love between the 2. Therefore, he had always been very interested in Jagaga. In his spare time, he would always let Lily play with him for a while. This Jagaga made him. What fascinates people is that it is ever-changing and always unpredictable. Recently, the 2 old men Yu Haining and Kong Yingde are also very interested in it. People in the East Palace are accustomed to the prince often playing this. When he saw the prince he thought was dead, Li Shimin almost failed to recognize him. In his memory, Li Changqian always had a gloomy face. As he grew older, he became more and more narrow-minded. But at this moment Li Changqian looked magnanimous and generous, with a bit of a gentleman's demeanor. Yuz Heining did not lie, the prince had indeed changed. Li Shimin, who had already thought about changing the heir to the throne, suddenly felt a little happy at this time. He had no choice but to change the crown prince. In fact, in his heart, he did not want to replace Li Changqian. If Li Changqian did not come later in the plot, it was impossible for Li Shimin to depose him if he wanted to kill the king and his father. It was just for the sake of Li Tang's empire. Li Changqian had really fallen too far in recent years. When Li Shimin heard the memorial from a group of courtiers recently, he had the desire to the prince was hesitant about whether he could inherit the throne in the future. Seeing the changes in Li Changqian, Li Shimin was overjoyed and quickly strode into the palace. Before the 7th year of Zhengguan, the emperor often went to the East Palace to communicate with his son. However, after the 7th year of Zhengguan, Li Changqian felt inferior because of his leg disease, and Li Shimin gradually alienated him. In these years, Li Shimin spent very little time in the East Palace. Young master, Leng Hui saw the emperor coming at this time. Li Changqian was stunned. Even though his character had become much more stable in the past 2 years, his eyes were still red with excitement. The same was true for Li Shimin, especially when he saw Li Changqian. When his legs were completely healed, both father and son choked up. When Lily saw Li Shimin appear, she knew that her deployment these days had finally worked. In the East Palace, Li Shimin tested Li Changqian on many questions and talked with him about current affairs. Li Changqian answered fluently. His 2 years were not in vain. Maybe he had delayed too much in the past. After he gradually became wiser, he began to spend more energy than ordinary people to make up for himself. Li Shimin was naturally happy that he had wasted time, and the historian who accompanied him recorded the scene. On the 2nd day, Prince Changqian, who had not been to the court for nearly 2 years, reappeared in the court. His steps were steady, without the slight limp he had when walking 2 years ago, which aroused the attention of everyone in the court. He was surprised. In the following time, Li Changqian performed outstandingly, whether in martial arts or martial arts, which made many people unbelievable. The news of the prince's recovery from leg disease spread throughout the dynasty. There were no longer those absurd things in the plot, no more negative incidents such as doting on male favorites, and no more conflicts with Yuz Heining and others. Naturally, no longer did Li Changqian want to send someone to assassinate an important official in the court, King Li Tai of Wei, or even what happened to Li Shimin. Li Changqian's position as prince sat firmly and there was no longer any controversy. As Li Shimin got older, the prince spent more time overseeing the country. In the plot, in the 23rd year of Zhengguan, Li Shimin died of a sudden illness after taking the Tianzu elixir. Instead, in the same year, Li Shimin handed over the throne to Li Changqian. In his hands, he became the supreme emperor, moved to Qivai Palace on Zongnan Mountain, and never interfered in state affairs again. There were many things to be busy with when the new emperor came to the throne. Lily was named queen. When everything settled half a year later, Li Changqian named his younger brother Li Ji king and asked him to go to the fief. Lily held Li Xiang's hand and saw that he was entering. When Li Ji bid farewell to the new emperor, he looked disappointed and unwilling. His downcast look showed that he was not in a calm mood at this time. In the plot, Li Ji seemed to be indifferent on the surface, but in fact, sometimes not fighting was also a kind of struggle. It is still the old saying, born in the royal family, it is impossible to have a truly pure and kind person. In the plot, he is the final winner, but this time with Lily's intervention, he is still just an idle prince. This Li Tang Zhongshan, still did not fall into his hands. At this point, Li Changqian ascended the throne and his side was cleaned up. He was not deposed and demoted to a commoner in the plot. Subeihi's son Li Xiang was named the prince, and Subeihi was the empress and mother of the world. After a lot of hard work, this task was successfully completed. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan Erwr. Chapter 446. As soon as Lily completed her mission and returned to the starry sky, someone pressed against her back and put a hand around her waist. Li Yangzi's hard chest showed that he was not in a good mood at the moment. Lily subconsciously, when she was about to turn around, Li Yangzi had already reached out to cover her eyes. His slender and somewhat cold fingertips gently touched her forehead back and forth, and his voice was a little gloomy. The mission is completed. His hands were caressing Lily's body, his movements were intimate but not playful, as if he was driving away the scent of others from her body. His fingertips rubbed Lily's forehead several times, and then he put his hand again down. Lily opened her eyes and saw Li Yangzi's cold and delicate face. He lowered his head and touched her lips, and hooked the fingertips of her hand. Lily's information appeared in the starry sky. Gender, female, variable. Name, Lily. Age, 21. Intelligence, 83, out of 100. Appearance, 88, out of 100. Physical strength, 75, 100 full points. Force, 49, out of 100 points. Spirit, 73, out of 100 points. Reputation, 40, out of 100 points. Skills, 9 Yang Manual, 9 Yin Manual, Heaven and Earth Gate Tao Te Ching, Southern Gu Technique, Star Body Training Technique. Specialties, Advanced Acting Skills, Advanced Cooking Skills, 5 Elements, and Bagua, slightly dabbled in. Charisma, 64, out of 100. Mark, Royal True Dragon Spirit. Lily was a little surprised to find that in addition to the increase in her attribute values this time, her specialty, which had always been shown to be intermediate acting skills, had also been upgraded. Li Yangzi seemed to know what she was thinking, and curled up his lips. As you accumulate multiple tasks, your expertise will naturally grow. He pursed his lips, his expression showing a bit of sinisterness, and it took a while before he returned to his previous calm expression. Although he didn't say anything, Lily saw his expression in her eyes. Although the two of them were now so close, although she had accepted Li Yangzi's existence, she was still a little confused in the face of this sudden change in their relationship. Measures. Although she tried every means to get Li Chenqin's love in this plot, it was just a calculation. Besides, she was living her life with Lily Su's husband under someone else's body. The feeling was different from now. She had no love or feelings for Li Chengqian. The entanglement is purely a task relationship. So she could calm down, but Li Yangzi was different from Li Chengqian, and Lily didn't want to think about it deeply. She hesitated for a long time, and finally didn't speak. She just put her arms around Li Yangzi's waist silently. It feels good to actually have someone waiting for her every time she returns to the stars after completing a mission. But it was too cruel for those who were waiting. Lily thought of the disappointed look on Li Yangzi's face just now. He hesitated for a moment, but still didn't say anything. Li Yangzi also saw the struggle in Lily's eyes. It felt good that the girl took the initiative to embrace him. He could feel that Lily was slowly accepting him at this time. Although the process was a bit slow, Li Yangzi even felt a little tired of waiting. He was patient, but he didn't use any means to catalyze it. Blindly plucking the seedlings to encourage growth may seem like the situation will be very beneficial to him in a short period of time, but as time goes by Lily will feel something is wrong. There will be endless troubles in the future. Li Yangzi's previous pressing step by step was just to make her face herself. Now that the goal has been achieved, he naturally has to slow down and cannot push her too hard. Therefore, Li Yangzi suppressed the desire in his heart and he gently took her into his arms. After staying in the starry sky for a while, when Lily had rested enough, Li Yangzi sent her on a mission again. "Have you had enough trouble?" A roar full of anger rang in Lily's ears, and there was only a crisp sound of pop. Lily's face suddenly seemed to have been slapped, and her head she leaned to one side weakly, and her originally chaotic thoughts quickly became sober after her mental strength increased. She quickly opened her eyes, and before she had time to look at the surrounding scene, she saw a man about 1.8 meters tall with a handsome and cold appearance. The young man stared at her fiercely, with one hand in his pocket and the other hand still raised. It was obvious that the slap Lily received just now was his masterpiece. When Lily woke up, the boy sneered and raised his hand again. When Lily saw the palm coming towards her cheek with the strong wind, she subconsciously tilted her head to avoid the slap. Perhaps he didn't expect that she would hide. The owner of the palm couldn't control his body because he used too much force. He staggered and ran forward for 2 steps before stopping. He turned around and stared at Lily. "I'm warning you, you better stay out of my business from now on, otherwise go back and see what I tell my parents and ask them to take good care of you." Lily stretched out her hand and rubbed her head. Seeing that Lily was ignoring him, the person who spoke seemed to be a little annoyed. He stretched out his hand and pushed Lily hard. "Did you hear that?" Her cheeks were burning with pain, and the corner of Lily's mouth twitched. The corner of the body's mouth must have been broken by the slap just now. It was stinging and painful. She had done so many missions, and she had rarely been slapped. At that moment, an unknown fire surged up in Lily's heart. She reached out and touched her hot cheek, with a sneer at the corner of her mouth. The boy was still pointing at her nose and scolding her, and his fingertips almost touched her face. Without thinking, Lily stretched out her hand, grabbed his finger and turned it over. The young man never thought that she would fight back. He was shocked. When he came to his senses, Lily had already cut his arm behind his back and pushed him against the wall. Superior. The pain of the hard folded bones made the young man cry out in pain, and he subconsciously said, "Do you want to die?" When Lily heard what he said, she bent her knees and pressed hard against his lower back. The boy let out a scream. This body was very petite. Lily stretched out her hand and pulled his dark and soft hair. In the palm of my hand, I pulled his face forward with force, and quickly let go of the hand that controlled his arm. Before the boy could recover, he bent his elbow, raised his elbow, and hit him in the face. This body was too petite and weak. If she hadn't used her skill just now, she couldn't subdue the young man. Now, even if she wanted to avenge that slap, it wouldn't hurt to hit him on the face. Lily simply borrowed it. He hit him with his elbow and heard a soft click sound. The young man didn't care about arguing with Lily. He covered his nose and tears immediately came out. Blood came out from between his fingers. He was in pain. Taking a breath, Lily raised her leg and kicked him hard on the back. "You dare to hit me? You are the one who wants to die." The young man was unable to stand stably, and he was even more unsteady after being kicked. He rushed forward and hurriedly reached out his hands to support himself on the ground to maintain his balance. Before he could recover, Lily at this moment, she hit someone and started running away. In terms of body shape, she was not on the same level as the boy just now. She would only suffer a loss if she stayed. So she took a look around and saw that this place seemed to be a small forest, not far away. The voices of voices could still be heard. Lily didn't care to accept the plot at this time, and ran in the direction of the sound. When the boy who was beaten with nosebleeds came out, Lily could no longer be seen. "Zubayhi, you wait for me," the young man gritted his teeth and cursed. Because of his emotional excitement, 2 tubes of nosebleeds dripped from his nostrils and dripped down his lips. He cursed a few words and hurriedly took out a knife from his body. Zhang Pazi blocked his nose and looked around. Seeing that there were too many people at the moment, he retreated into the trees. Lily had not received the plot at this time and did not know the identity of the original owner, so she did not dare to run around at will. After running out of the woods, she discovered that this was an aristocratic school. There were almost everyone under the tree-shaded walkway. Lily was not able to run around at this moment. She dared to receive the plot outside but was afraid of being interrupted. She finally thought about it and decided to go to the toilet to receive the plot before talking about it. There are generally few people coming to the toilet. Even if you lock yourself in there for an hour or two, no one will disturb you when the students are in class. Thinking of this, Lily looked for the toilet sign all the way, deliberately not looking at it. Running to a crowded place, I chose the direction of the library instead, found the toilet on the first floor and got in. There were not many people in the library at this time. Lily locked the toilet door and lowered the toilet lid. As soon as she sat on it, a lot of plots flooded into her mind. She half squinted her eyes, but there was something going on in the quiet toilet. There was a sound of footsteps, mixed with a woman's soft plea. "No, no, this is at school." The voice was extremely delicate, sounding like rejection, but it also had a teasing flavor to it. The corners of Lily's eyebrows twitched. It didn't take long for someone to close the toilet door. There was only a sound of going up next door. After the sound of the lock, a hoarse male voice lowered his voice and said, "As long as you keep your voice low and don't let others hear it, who will know what you did? Let me see if you have thought about it." Then there was a squeaking sound coming from the next door, mixed with the teasing laughter of three men. The toilet stall might have been shaken by someone. I thought I would find a quiet place to absorb the plot, but I didn't expect it. 4 men and women came to play wild games next door. She didn't expect that she would be so unlucky as soon as she entered the mission. Lily was speechless. Once the plot started to take in, she couldn't stop anymore. She thought about those people next door. Cursing the bloody nozzle, she heard women's cries of pain and moans from time to time. The commotion didn't stop for more than an hour. Lily tightly grasped the edge of the toilet with her palms, and almost pulled down the toilet seat in frustration. She gritted her teeth and suppressed the nausea in her heart to absorb the last bit of the plot. The next door had entered the final stage. Lily could hear the squeaking sound coming from the toilet lid and the door panel being banged. The woman's moans of death came, with pain and joy, mixed with the man's heavy breathing, making Lily feel disgusted beyond words. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. P.S. Second update. I have been struggling with the name for half an hour. I'm sorry everyone, ha 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 ha. For the sake of the fourth update today, everyone will definitely forgive me. Little fans, please give me a request. It's almost the end of the month. Do you think I will update 3 times a day next month? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 447. After absorbing all the plot, Lily not only understood her approximate location, but also knew who the men and women next door were. Coincidentally, that woman was one of the people she wanted to take revenge on in this mission. Lian Xin and 3 of her men. This time Lily became a woman named Zhu Lily. Zhu Lily came from an ordinary family. Both of her parents were retired civil servants. The family could only be considered well off. Zhu Lily was smart and well behaved when she was young, and her academic performance was among the best. She went to normal university. After graduation, her parents asked someone to find a relationship for her and let her enter a private high school as a Chinese teacher. Zhu Beihi's life also started from this famous aristocratic private high school. The name of this private school, called Imperial Noble School, is very domineering. It was originally established as a joint venture between the four families of Watson, Xiao, Wang, and Bai. It covers everything from kindergarten to university. The four major families in the world are, the multinational companies are not prominent in the rankings, but in fact they are the business overlords who control the secret economy of the entire world. Several families funded the establishment of this school, not to make money, but to train the heirs of several families. These four heirs are respectively, their names are, Xiao Tao, Wang Heling, and Bai Ziyu. These four people are known as the four kings in the aristocratic private school. The four kings are not only extraordinary in life, but also the most important thing is that they are extremely handsome. Each one of them is the idol of the students in the school. They are popular among thousands of boys and girls. People in the school give them nicknames, the four kings of heaven, earth, man, and demon. Lily couldn't help but feel a little pain in her balls when she thought of this. After Zhu Beihe graduated from the normal school, she entered this school with the support of her parents and worked in the high school. Originally, I had no other thoughts when wishing my father and mother, I just hoped that my daughter would have a stable and decent job with a high salary in the future. In this aristocratic private school, the annual tuition fee is more than what many people earn in a lifetime. If you want more, you may not be able to get in even if you are rich but not powerful. The students here, both male and female, all come from the most outstanding families in the world. After Zhu Lily entered this school, she saw the campus full of princes and princesses. Suddenly my heart became a little unbalanced. These princes are all tall and handsome, especially the most mysterious King Watson, who is said to be the true heir to the royal family of a certain country. He is one of the true princes and has many fans in the school, but the school never came or went without a trace. Therefore, few people have seen him. The other princes can cause bursts of screams whenever they appear in groups on campus. Zhu Lily also saw these three after entering this aristocratic school. The prince was immediately shocked. Regardless of his status as a teacher, he joined a group of prince support teams. Became one of the three prince's crazy fans. Zhu Beihe originally came from an ordinary background. Her parents were retired private teachers. Although she was given a high salary by the aristocratic school after working, she was used to seeing both students and teachers driving famous cars, and all of them used customized limited editions. After buying her bags and cosmetics from top international luxury brands, Zhu Lily quickly became dark. She began to imagine that she wanted to find a strong backer in this school, and then the sparrow turned into a phoenix. You can fly on a branch and be a young mistress yourself. Many teachers and students in the school looked down on her and bullied her everywhere, but Zhu Beihe endured it. She began to wander among single male teachers, hoping to find a stable boyfriend, but in the end others looked down on her at all. He thought she was vulgar and treated her as a target of ridicule, and she was often bullied in school, but Lily Zhu was unwilling to give up on this path of pursuing a wealthy husband. It wasn't until she stayed in school for half a year that another female teacher finally came to the school. This female teacher came from an equally ordinary background, even shabbier than her. This female teacher was just an orphan whose parents had died. When she first entered the school, she suffered a lot of cold looks and ridicule from others, but she was as unyielding as a weed. Finally, she stayed in the school with her tenacious character and perseverance. And this female teacher who was called a weed behind her back was the woman Yu Liangzin whom Lily just heard in the toilet. Yu Liangzin was very ugly in appearance and was ridiculed by others in this aristocratic high school. She had a thick haircut that covered her face, black-rimmed glasses, and a rustic dress. She was bullied by students on the first day she entered school, but she was neither humble nor arrogant. After entering school, Yu Liangzin may have thought that Zhu Beihe liked her. She was the only two people in the school with different backgrounds, so she gradually became friends with her. Zhu Beihe had always looked down on Yu Liangzin in her heart, but no one in this school would follow her. In a word, even the students sometimes ignored her. Yu Liangxin's appearance made Zhu Lili feel a sympathy for her. Therefore, although she disliked Yu Liang's heart, Zhu Lili still became friends with her. But he didn't expect that half a year later, when Zhu Lili's younger brother graduated from junior high school and Zhu Lili used her connections to introduce his younger brother to study in this aristocratic school, the fragile friendship between Zhu Lili and Yu Liangxin was suddenly broken. Although Yu Liangxin came from a poor background, she met a senior who liked her innocence and cuteness very much when she was studying. The senior had a high background and introduced her to this aristocratic school. After she entered the school, she accidentally met Xiao Xiao from the prince. They met each other because they didn't recognize the word in Xiao Tao's name, and the two became attached to each other. Xiao Tao hated her at the beginning and then slowly looked at her differently. Until one time, Xiao Tao accidentally got Yu's love. After taking Liangxin's body, they began to know the taste from the marrow. At first, Xiao Tao was the only one who enjoyed Yu Liangxin. Later, when the three princes all knew about the relationship between Yu Liangxin and Xiao Tao, out of curiosity, several people he had sex with Yu Liangxin one after another, but he was deeply attracted to her because of Yu Liangxin's naturally sensitive and tight body. At first, several princes regarded Yu Liangxin as a plaything, but later they really fell in love with Yu Liangxin because of their relationship with each other. They began to not allow others to bully her in school, and included her in several people's groups. One of the circles. When Zhu Beihe found out about this, she felt unwilling and a little jealous. She also liked tall, rich, and handsome people, and she also liked several princes, but none of the princes could like her without telling her, but they all preferred Yu Liangxin. Looking at it from another perspective, Zhu Beihe believed that she was no worse than Yu Liangxin. Why could the princes, as her idols, not be able to look at her squarely? Yu Liangxin was ugly and stupid, but the princes defended her at every turn. When Zhu Beihe was filled with jealousy, she accidentally discovered that several princes and Yu Liangxin had had intimate relationships. And what she couldn't bear was that her brother Zhu Ao, whom she had loved since childhood, also fell in love with Yu Liangxin. Because Yu Liangxin was friends with her, she naturally became acquainted with Zhu Ao. After being nourished by a man, Yu Liangxin quickly began to show off her charm, and Zhu Ao was fascinated. The two of them started to fight. In the name of taking care of a good friend's younger brother, a good sister in the name of sister can get closer. Zhu Ao fell in love with Yu Liangxin unknowingly, and after Yu Liangxin prostituted Zhu Ao, she actually said the two were just friends, so they completely ignored Zhu Ao. After the goddess alienated him, Zhu Ao began to suffer abnormally. He started to skip school every day and drank like adults. He was so drunk that he ruined his body, which made Zhu Lili feel very distressed. Although Zhu Beihe is selfish and somewhat vain by nature, she is very protective of her family. She wants to marry a good husband not only to satisfy her own vanity, but also to bring benefits to her family from now on. For this one and only her younger brother, she felt even more pain in her bones. In order for her younger brother to enter this aristocratic school and receive a good education, she begged her grandparents and sued her grandmother everywhere. She almost lost all the face she didn't have, except that she didn't. I knelt down with others and spent all my previous savings to shamelessly give gifts to let my younger brother enter this school. I didn't expect that my younger brother was just in high school and fell in love with Yu Liangxin, who was several years older than him. What's more important, yes, Yu Liangxin actually hurt him. Zhu Lili couldn't accept this matter, so she quickly fell out with Yu Liangxin. When the two of them got into a fight, what Zhu Lili never expected was that her younger brother, who had been rejected by Yu Liangxin, would stand up without hesitation. The more Zhu Lili objected to Yu Liangxin's side, the more passionately he loved her. He even said that even if he was in unrequited love with Yu Liangxin, he didn't need Zhu Beihe's nosy words to hurt the original owner. Siblings who were close to each other were like enemies when they met. Zhu Ao's father and Zhu's mother spent countless words to persuade the two siblings, but Zhu Ao seemed to have been hardened. Later, he decided to drop out of school to pursue Yu Liangzin and work to support her, no longer rely on her parents and family, and want to break away from the Zhu family. Zhu Beihe had sacrificed everything for her younger brother to enter the school. Now, just because of a woman, Zhu Ao actually said that she wanted to drop out of school. When she was working in the school, she was made things difficult for her every day and laughed at. She had saved all the money for 2 years. She spent all her money to get Zhu Ao into school, but now Zhu Ao easily said she would give up for Yu Liangzin. Zhu Lili was so angry that she slapped Zhu Ao, and impulsively said that Yu Liangzin was a shameless person. The fact that a woman seduced 3 princes and several others in the school, and stepped on 3 boats, originally thought that after knowing the true identity of Yu Liangzin, Zhu Ao would be able to change his mind and no longer be infatuated with Yu Liangzin as a legend. Unexpectedly, Zhu Ao almost beat Zhu Beihe, thinking that she had slandered the goddess in his mind, and the 2 siblings were completely at odds from then on. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 448. The words Zhu Lili said reached the ears of the 3 princes at some point, and the princes began to target Zhu Lili intentionally or unintentionally. When she was in school, people would play pranks on Zhu Lili every day, and her clothes would be cut off. Broken blades would appear in her shoes, and bricks would sometimes fall down when she entered the classroom. All kinds of pranks almost tortured Zhu Lili crazy, but she refused to admit defeat. She felt that she did not done wrong. Naturally, Yu Liangzin completely broke up with Zhu Beihe. Every time she saw Zhu Beihe, tears welled up in her eyes. Chu Chu pitifully looked like she had been bullied. After she was with the 3 princes, of course, princes will not treat their women badly. With money as a backup, she began to dress up beautifully. It turned out that under her rustic and ugly appearance, she had a face that was extremely beautiful as long as she put on makeup. From then on, Zhu Beihe became a joke in the school. She betrayed her friends and smeared their reputations behind their backs. After Yu Liangzin turned around, she was ridiculed by people in the school for being a toad. After being tortured, Zhu Beihe finally suffered from the disease. Depression, she was afraid of crowds, and she suffered from a very serious mental illness. The Zhu family spent all their savings to find a psychiatrist for her, but unfortunately they were never able to get a good treatment. The Zhu family was an ordinary family, but later they had no money for treatment. Zhu Beihe's condition became more and more serious, and she began to have symptoms. When she was prone to self-mutilation, Zhu's family had no money to spend on her treatment, so they had to tie her up at home every day. When Zhu Ao ridiculed her once, Zhu Lili couldn't bear to be ridiculed by her younger brother, and finally took advantage of others not paying attention. She committed suicide by swallowing a knife, ending her short life. After Lili received the plot, she rubbed her head. The sound of men and women breathing heavily came from the toilet next door. Lily's forehead jumped. There was already a man next door whispering, "Baby, you're so tight, little goblin, you're going to bite me to death." Relax. After saying that, there seemed to be a slap, followed by a woman's whimpering cry, a man's heavier breathing, and another sound. A man's careless voice also rang out, "Tao, please be gentle, don't hurt our baby. Little goblin. You have to keep your voice down, otherwise if someone hears it, it won't be us who will be embarrassed." There was someone next door, and no matter how low her sense of existence was, she couldn't be ignored to such an extent. Lily saw the naked feet next door in the toilet partition. Seeing his feet wearing high heels again, he suddenly sighed silently again. She didn't have the room to restrain her voice. But the neighbor didn't seem to hear it. Lily stood up in disgust and patted her skirt. The person who slapped her when she entered the mission today was Zhu Ao, Zhu Lily's younger brother. At this moment, when I first entered high school, I happened to be studying in Yu Liangxin's class, because my sister and Yu Liangxin were originally friends. Yu Liangxin took great care of Zhu Ao, so the two became familiar with each other. Although this aristocratic school only attracts children of powerful people, but almost all of them will inherit the family's elite in the future. Zhu Ao's original grades were pretty good, but after moving to a new school, he was despised and ostracized every day. The invisible pressure caused his grades to drop a lot recently. When he was in an ordinary school, he was considered the favorite of the school because of his good looks and ability to play basketball, and everyone was following him. But after he came here, his family background could not compete with others, even if he was taller than others. He was handsome, but the female classmates in the class did not look at him with admiration, but with contempt. The kind of glorious life that Zhu Ao imagined after entering a noble school did not appear, so he was under great pressure and was not interested in studying. I started to resist a little. If it weren't for the fact that studying in an aristocratic school allowed him to brag to his former friends, and that Zhu Bei had put a lot of effort into getting him into this school, he would have stopped coming. If Zhu Ao fails the final exam after his grades are poor, Zhu Ao will have to repeat the grade. The annual tuition here is 300,000 Chinese coins. The Zhu family is an ordinary family. After Zhu's father and mother retire, their salaries will increase. It only cost less than 5,000 a month. In fact, it was Zhu Bei who paid the tuition for him. If he repeated another year, Zhu Bei would have to spend an extra year of salary, so Zhu Ao thought about it and finally found Yu Liangxin to help him. Yu Liangxin was full of enthusiasm for being a teacher, but in the end he was looked down upon by a group of nobles and weaklings. He did not realize the dignity of a teacher at all. It was not easy to get a student like Zhu Ao, one who wanted to learn and the other who wanted to teach. The two went back and forth, first as siblings, and finally as friends, and then Zhu Ao fell in love with Yu Liangxin. Zhu Bei was naturally shocked and angry when she found out. She stopped the two of them several times, and broke up with Yu Liangxin without hesitation. But she didn't expect that Zhu Ao, who had always been on good terms with her, suddenly seemed to have changed. Like a new person, she always stood by Yu Liangxin's side to protect her. The relationship between Zhu Bei and Yu Liangxin naturally became more and more tense when she couldn't bear it. Before Bei entered the plot today, Zhu Bei was looking for Yu Liangxin. Lian Xian talked with her and asked her to stay away from her brother, but she didn't expect that she didn't find Yu Lian Xian's person in the office. Thinking of how Yu Lian Xian was taken good care of by the three princes in the school, Zhu Lily went to the aristocratic school by mistake. The university branch of the university went away. Chi Chu and other three princes are all members of the middle school student union of the aristocratic school. Because the aristocratic school is a joint venture of four families, in addition to the school's board of directors, only the student union headed by the fourth prince has the most power, not only within the school. He is omnipotent and has his own office building. However, the most mysterious of the four princes, Watson, is elusive and does not appear often. Therefore, there are usually only three princes in the student council president's office. Zhu Lily will go there. As a fan of these three princes, she naturally knew how to sneak into the building quietly. She originally thought of trying her luck with Yu Liangxin, but in fact she never thought that she might actually see Yu Liangxin here. It's pitiful, after all, these three presidents all have weird misophobia, and they like to exclude others and don't like the smell of others in the school. Zhu Lily originally just wanted to take a sneak look at the prince of her dreams, and just take a couple of photos with your phone and reflect on them later. Unexpectedly, when she sneaked into the office building, no one here would dare to challenge the authority of the princes on weekdays, so few people came here. Zhu Lily slipped in easily. She went upstairs and saw the sign for the president's office. With the words "Do not disturb" written on her face, Zhu Beihe gently pushed the door open. Unexpectedly, she saw several princes who usually seemed to be unruly holding Yu Liangzin on their bodies. At this moment, Yu Liangzin was naked, her cheeks they were covered in red, and it was obvious what they were doing at a glance. Leng Huai discovered such a big secret, and Zhu Lili was immediately stimulated. She originally wanted to find a match in a noble school, but she fantasized about the encounter between the prince and the princess, but it was just in her imagination. She fantasized about being able to meet in a noble school. She married a male teacher from a well-off family in school and imagined that a rich man in the school would introduce her to a boyfriend. She liked a few high-ranking princes, but she never thought that one day she would be able to possess them. She never dared. She thought about it this way, but as a commoner like her, and even inferior to her in every aspect, Yu Liangzin not only did something she couldn't even imagine, but also slept with all three princes at once. Zhu Beihe was so stimulated that she couldn't bear it and was a little jealous. She felt sour in her heart. When she ran out of the student union's office building with a very complicated mood, she was suddenly searched for her, fearing that she was looking for Yu Lian. Zhu Ao, who was troubled, was dragged into the woods of the school. The two siblings used to have a very good relationship, but recently they were at loggerheads because of one Yu Liangzin. Zhu Ao was originally at a rebellious age, and Zhu Lili had just seen that irritating scene, and when she persuaded her brother to find his way back, Zhu Ao only thought that she was doing everything possible to separate him and Yu Liangzin, and he became increasingly impatient with Zhu Lili. Zhu Ao was originally dissatisfied with the fact that Zhu Lili went to find Yu Liangzin, but now hearing Zhu Lili's words to persuade him to leave Yu Liangzin again, Zhu Ao thought that Zhu Lili was jealous of Yu Liangzin's innocence and cuteness, and ridiculed her sister's materialism and money worship, comparing Zhu Lili with Yu Liangzin, saying that one of them was inferior to the other. The other is vulgar mud, while the other is noble clouds. Vulgar Ni has at least made enough money so that you can study, and noble Yun has already fallen in love with a man. Zhu Lili was stimulated by this sentence, and blurted out what she didn't plan to say, but Zhu Ao didn't expect it. She was like an angry lion on the spot, and slapped Zhu Lili without thinking. When Lili entered the task, it happened that the quarrel between the two siblings got excited, and Zhu Ao reached out to slap her. Lili sorted out the plot in her mind, and thought of the slap she received when she entered the mission. Although she had already slapped Zhu Ao on the elbow afterwards, she still felt very upset when she thought about it. She touched her cheek, and the more she thought about it, the more furious she became. The humming and groaning sounds from next door were endless. From the time Zhu Beihe went to the student president's office building until now, these people have been making out for 2 or 3 hours. But at this moment, she still looked like she was fighting fiercely. Lili twitched the corners of her mouth, stood up, and opened the door. The movements of the people next door who were moaning in full swing suddenly stopped. Not only did the shaking wall panels stop, but even Yu Liangzin's moans stopped. A man groaned, and Lili also, regardless of whether these people were frightened or not, they opened the toilet door that was locked by several people and walked out. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. P.S. Fourth update. There may have been too many recently, so I still feel a bit stressed, so the updates are not on time. The author is trying his best to adjust, but I don't know if it is because the Chinese New Year is approaching and things have increased, so the effect is not ideal. Please include it if you feel it is too late that day. Yes, I will leave it until the next day to read it, but the author will definitely do what he promised, so you don't have to worry about this. In addition, I have to go out for something tomorrow. The author will try to be on time for the first update, but I cannot guarantee the second update. If it is late, I will make up for it when I get home, everyone. Thanks, pal. Mo, dear Zion Pseun for the reward. Thanks to, Xinur, Dear He Shivi who gave the reward Ying. Thank you for your support. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 449. The original owner's bag had just been pulled by Zuayla, and he didn't know where it fell now. There was no wallet in it, but there was a valuable mobile phone, in order for Zuayla to study in this aristocratic school. Zubayhi put almost all the money she had saved in the past 2 years of work into it. The original owner was indeed full of vanity and wanted to marry a rich man. Sometimes the things he did were indeed ridiculous and sad in the eyes of others, but she is very frugal. Although she envies others who can buy famous brands, Zubayhi knows her family's situation and is deeply afraid that if she finds a partner in the future, her family will not have the money to pay for a dowry, so she has saved all the money she has earned from working over the years, but she did not expect the result. Just because Zuao wanted to study, he spent it all at once. At this moment, he was still wearing old clothes that were discounted every season. In the end, his brother Zuao said that she was too vain and couldn't compare with Yu Liangxin's little flower. White Lotus. /U003C. Not to mention that the original owner couldn't bear hearing such words, Lily felt heartbroken just thinking about it now. It was already afternoon time. I thought about it and thought that the original owner had no classes in the afternoon. This aristocratic school has a free style of study. Generally, teachers can leave on their own when there are no classes, but they must be there when there are classes. The original owner always liked to hang out in the school when he had nothing to do. She hoped to meet a man who would fall in love with her, but unfortunately she never succeeded. Lily was no longer prepared to stay in school. It was only after she left the campus that she remembered that she didn't even have the money to take the bus back. Fortunately, because Zubayhi neither had a driver's license nor money to buy a car, some of her documents were kept at home. Her bank card was in her bag, but there was not a penny in the card. Students in aristocratic schools are not short of money. Zubayhi's previous bags were not from famous brands. It is unlikely that it will be picked up, but it is very likely that it will be thrown into the trash can. What was lost was not a particularly valuable thing. Lily calmed down at this time, but there was no one outside the school. There were all kinds of luxurious vehicles parked on the parking lawn outside, but Lily found it somewhat tragic that she had to go down the mountain. Walk on your own legs. The reason why aristocratic schools are called aristocratic schools is that they are different from ordinary schools. This school was built by 4 major families who spent money to buy the entire hilltop. The project is huge, but it also means staying away from the downtown area. In the past, the reason Zubayhi had to stay until school was over at 5:30 in the afternoon was because she had nothing to do and wanted to stay in school for a few more minutes. The most important reason for the opportunity to meet rich people is that she does not have a car. The school bus will leave at 5:30 and 7:30 in the evening, even if no students will take it. But the aristocratic school did not lack the shuttle bus fare, so Lily started to feel like she was taking a special bus. Later, after meeting Yu Liangxin, the two of them sat together, and her younger brother also came here to study. Zubayhi thought she had found a companion, but she didn't expect that Yu Liangxin no longer took the chartered car, but 3 princes sent people after picking up and dropping off. She and Zuao were the only ones left in the end. At this time, it was deserted outside. The school gate was very exquisitely built, with a low-key luxury. There were no cars outside. Except for private cars, ordinary taxis could not get to this campus with layers of surveillance. After leaving the campus, Lily didn't want to go back anymore. She couldn't find her mobile phone. She had to buy another mobile phone today. After hesitating, Lily simply took a step forward and walked down the mountain. For others, it was impossible to walk all the way down the mountain. It's something to do, but for her, the most important thing is that she is tired, and it is just a good time to exercise. The time she beat Zuao today made Lily feel a little wary. She and Zueo have been in trouble to this point, and Zueo has a generous character. If she didn't have the ability to protect herself, she would probably have to be beaten by Zueo like in the plot. She planned to practice her martial arts after buying the mobile phone and going home. Although it was not the hot season of June or July, her feet still hurt after walking in high heels for a while. When Lily was tired from walking, she stopped to do a few stretching movements. The original owner had been dancing since she was a child, and her resilience was pretty good, and she did the first 2-star training exercises very smoothly. After stopping and going like this, Lily still reached halfway down the mountainside after an hour. There was no one else around except the guards standing guard. Perhaps it was the first time I saw someone walking out of the noble school. Several guards who were standing upright leaned over and stared at Lily. It was a quiet and wide tree-lined road. Suddenly there was the sound of a car driving, and the electronic barrier automatically raised. Lily looked back and saw a black RV driving down the mountain. Although there were all kinds of luxury cars in the aristocratic school, Lily Zubehi had seen a lot, including the 3 princes' cars, each of which was more showy than the other, but when she saw this car, Lily still raised her eyebrows. The car was originally driving very fast, but the moment Lily turned around, the speed slowly slowed down, and finally stopped next to her. When the window of the back seat slowly lowered, a man with a pale face was revealed, leaving behind a handsome young man with soft golden slightly curly semi-long hair. Half of his profile showed a bit of elegance and indifference. But when he turned his head towards Lily, in addition to his stunning face, there was also a smile on the corner of his mouth. A very warm smile, but strangely has the power to soothe people's hearts. Want a ride? This is a young man in his 20s, with a pair of eyes as blue and clear as the sky, with very deep facial features, and a few strands of slightly curly hair in front of his fair forehead, creating a somewhat romantic look. The feeling comes. But he was meticulously dressed in a crisp white shirt and a black suit, and his temperament was so gentle and clean that people could not help but fall in love with him. He spoke fluent Chinese, but his tone had the unique curling tongue of foreigners. Lily has done so many missions and has seen all kinds of people, but this is the first time she has seen someone like the young man in front of her. He seems to have etched the etiquette and the innate elegance of the nobility into his bones. Lily, I even noticed that his tie was tied meticulously, and a plaid handkerchief on his chest was folded at a beautiful and perfect angle and placed in the pocket of his suit. Do you want a ride? Perhaps seeing that Lily didn't speak, the young man asked again. He even nodded slightly to Lily politely but with a bit of reserve. Lily subconsciously touched her body. The young man in front of her seemed gentle. But she actually has a very strong aura. Because she does a lot of tasks and spends a lot of time with Li Yangzi, she doesn't feel any pressure when talking to him. The guards around her have lowered their heads now. Go, speechless. I have no money. Lily was sure that he was talking to her, but she spread her hands. The young man seemed to have heard something funny and suddenly laughed softly. He was originally gentle and looked a little cold. His face suddenly seemed to come alive, and his eyes seemed to be full of light. The smile on the corner of his mouth was a bit gentle and helpless. He covered his mouth with a handkerchief and coughed softly. 2 words, sorry. He apologized first, then opened the door and got out of the car. When he was sitting in the car, he could only vaguely see his tall figure. Now, after getting out of the car, Lily realized that he was very tall. He made a gesture of invitation. Ma'am, I don't want money. His action revealed the cuffs of his white shirt under his black suit jacket, with complicated lace on the sleeves. However, wearing it on him didn't even show a hint of femininity. Instead, it made people notice his fine details. The slender white wrist, the silver watch worn on one hand, and the retro lace cuffs match the wrist, showing a strange and coordinated feeling. Master. A big man in black clothes sitting in the front seat got out of the car, put his hand on his waist and stared at Lily. His eyes were like a wolf, and his expression was a little dangerous. The young man shook his head slightly, and his voice was low. Like an organ, the soft blonde hair on his forehead swayed due to his smile, creating beautiful lines. The young man raised a finger that was almost transparent and white, suppressing what the big man in black wanted to say, and walked around to the car. The other side opened the car door for Lily. After walking for such a long time, she reached the halfway point of the mountain. Zubayhi didn't have any martial arts background, so everything was supported by Lily's perseverance. She was also wearing a pair of stiletto heels, and her ankles had already been worn out for such a long time. At this moment, there was a ready-made car to sit in. Lily only hesitated for a long time, then said thank you and walked towards the car. When he got into the car, the young man covered his mouth with a handkerchief and coughed twice, while holding out his hand to cover Lily's hand. Top in case she touches it accidentally. In such an era, she could still meet such a gentleman. Lily glanced at the young man in surprise. The young man had already closed the car door, coughed twice, and quickly put the handkerchief into his bag. He sat back in the car by himself. The space in the car is very large. After the renovation, it is like a small mobile room. It has everything you need. In addition to a refrigerator and a sofa and coffee table, there is also a solid wood bookshelf filled with books. Lily took a look and found that most of them were in English, and there was a book on the table next to the car seat that had obviously just been turned over. The young man saw her gaze, smiled slightly, and picked up the book. After he let Lily get in the car, he had no intention of continuing to talk to her, and returned his gaze to the book in his hand. This young man has a very gentle temperament, like a touch of sunshine in the afternoon that is not strong but has a hint of fresh grass fragrance, making people feel very comfortable. He is like a picture scroll, holding a book. At the moment it looked so quiet that people couldn't bear to wake him up, but as the scenery outside the window flew by, once down the mountain and the car entered the downtown area, Lily still interrupted his reading. Thank you for your help. If there is an opportunity in the future, please give me a chance to repay you. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 450. As Lily spoke, she nodded to the young man and stretched out her hand to open the car door. The young man then moved his eyes away from the book and glanced at Lily with a hazy look. After a long while, he smiled at her and shook his head. He said, "Madam, you're too polite. It's a pleasure to get along with ladies. It's just a simple effort, so you don't have to be polite." As he said this, he pressed the button from somewhere. There was the sound of unlocking the car door, and Lily clicked on him again. Nodding, he opened the car door and got out. The vehicle that had just stopped quickly sped past, leaving behind a trail of exhaust gas that quickly disappeared into the crowd of cars in the city and was never seen again. The boy Lily saw today didn't seem to appear in the plot, but just based on the car and the boy's calm demeanor, Lily could tell that the boy should be from a wealthy family, but she was not the original owner, and she didn't want it. Like the original owner, he wanted to find a man in school to marry, so he quickly forgot about the matter after saying thank you to the boy and getting off the car. This time, Zubayhi's wish was beyond Bayhi's expectation. There was only one wish. It was not to take revenge on Yu Liangzin, but to establish a clear relationship with Zhu Ao so that he would not end up like in the plot. Zubayhi, a vain and greedy woman, finally became wiser before she died. Although she was jealous that Yu Liangzin was born as an ordinary person like her, or even worse than her, but she could be favored by the princes, but after suffering from severe depression, Zubayhi seemed to have seen through many things. She just wanted to live a good life, have her own life for once, and marry an ordinary husband. She no longer expects to marry a man of high birth and wealth. The opinions of outsiders are not important. Sometimes even her own people can hurt her. She has long since let go of other people's opinions, so Lily's mission this time is just to stay away from Zhu. Ao, live your life well and grow old in peace. For Lily, she has seen many storms and waves in the mission. In the past, Zhu Lily was regarded by many people as a ridiculous clown-like figure. But such people are actually the most common. Especially after her great enlightenment, her request was so humble that Lily felt a little sympathetic. Maybe she was hurt and scared, so she didn't even dare to ask for it, but since Lily entered this time mission accomplished. She still decided that if Zhu Ao could stop messing with her, she would just take revenge for that slap, and the two of them would have nothing to do with each other from now on. Just as Zhu Lily thought, they would go back to the bridge and go back to the bridge. But if Zhu Ao were to get into her hands, Lily wouldn't let him off easily. By the way, I vented my anger for the original owner. When I finally got home, it was already dark. She usually went home at this time. Zhu's father and Zhu's mother left food for her. After Lily finished eating, Zhu Ao still hadn't come home. Zhu's father and Zhu's mother called several times. Lily locked herself in the room and cooperated with Xing Chen to practice. After practicing the 9-Yang manual for a while, I took a shower and lay down on the bed. In the morning, Lily practiced Xing Chen's physical skills once, and Zhu's father and mother had already prepared a meal outside. Zhu's mother nagged Lily worriedly. "Your brother didn't come back last night. I heard he went to a classmate's home. You can call him later." The older this kid gets, the more ignorant he becomes. Lily responded vaguely, and when she heard the news that Zhu Ao had not returned, she couldn't help but sneer in her heart. In the plot, Zhu Ao threatens his family by running away from home and staying at a classmate's house or going to a bar all night when something goes wrong. Unfortunately, in the end, no one can be a stepping stone between him and Yu Liangxin. Yu Liangxin failed to like him, and even under the domination of several princes, he never even touched Yu Liangxin's hand. Just for such a woman who never responded to his feelings, he made trouble. Zhu's family was turned upside down, and later he even stimulated his sister to death. The parents at home still don't know about the affair between Zhu Ao and Yu Liangxin. Zhu Lily is deeply afraid that her parents will worry, so even though Zhu Ao has had trouble with Zhu Ao several times behind his back, she has never revealed it in front of her parents. Zhu's mother only knows about the two siblings were having an argument, so seeing Lily's unhurried look, he gave her a few words of advice. She didn't say much to her parents. When Lily came to school, it was just after the morning self-study bell rang. Lily had no class in the first period. At this time, there were teachers gathered in 2s and 3s in the office. When she saw Lily entering the office, several people who were talking and laughing turned back to look at her, and a female teacher who usually ignored Lily unexpectedly waved her hand at Lily. "Teacher Zhu, aren't you and Yu Liangxin friends? She started asking for leave last night and didn't even attend evening self-study. She didn't see anyone during self-study this morning." When teacher Huang passed by the classroom, she saw it was in a mess. She did something happen. This female teacher is about 23 years old. She is the daughter of a big boss in Beijing who just returned from studying abroad this year. She is usually the person that Lily Zhu can't find a way to curry favor with, but today she actually took the initiative to talk to Lily. Seeing the probing look in her eyes, Lily knew that this female teacher must have heard that the third prince at school recently called Yu Liangxin to join the student union. The third prince's fans in the school are not just students. There are also many teachers who like them, like Zhu Beihe. After all, Qi Tao and others have powerful backgrounds, and they are heirs to various consortiums in the future. The reason why the school is like the young female teacher who was talking to Beihe came in for the same purpose as Zhu Beihe. In fact, it was just the difference in background between Zhu Beihe and these daughters. The targets of these rich ladies are the third prince and other top wealthy families, while Zhu Beihe has lower requirements. In addition, she has a poor background, so she is usually ostracized. Lily saw this girl talking to her with a condescending expression. He smiled slightly. I don't know, teacher, you and I are actually not that close. Lily's words obviously did not satisfy the female teacher. She curled her lips and turned away with a look of disapproval on her face. If you don't want to say it, forget it. Lulu, why are you talking to her? After Lily sat back in her office, she could still hear several teachers gathered outside complaining to the girl who had just asked. Because of their strong financial resources, aristocratic schools have no shortage of teachers. In addition, many people are eager to get in, so Lily is not busy in class every day. She currently only teaches Chinese in Zhu Ao's high school class. When Lily walks towards the classroom during class time, Zhu Ao's seat was still empty, and someone around him arrogantly threw some garbage on his seat. When Lily entered the classroom, a group of high-ranking students were lazily doing their own things. Some people leaned back and fell on the ground. On the chairs, people were leaning together and talking. Lily took a look and saw that someone even took a lighter on the desk and lit it for fun. Each of these people has an extraordinary background, and even the most inconspicuous among them may be a child of a certain powerful person. Zhu Beihe is usually cautious in class, but Lily doesn't care so much, and the original owner has already prepared the lesson plan for this semester. Spread out. He put the microphone he had prepared long ago on his waist, opened his mouth and began to read in a flat voice. In the past, Zhu Lily felt guilty and short of breath when facing this group of people. Once in the classroom, she always begged the students to listen carefully. As a result, not only did no one listen to her, but she also attracted a group of mischief and ridicule. In the end, Zhu Lily felt like I feel inferior in front of this group of people. She is also somewhat arrogant among outsiders and relatives, which is precisely because she is under great psychological pressure. So after being raped, I quickly developed depression and fear of crowds. As soon as Beihe started to read it, it was as if he was reciting something. The classmates in the class were stunned for a moment. Maybe they had never seen Zhu Beihe look so bold before. When he entered the classroom, he did not say hello to the classmates. Instead, he started to read it as soon as he came in. During the lecture, someone subconsciously looked towards the podium. The face of the young man holding a lighter in his hand quickly darkened, and he quickly threw the lighter at Lily. It's so noisy. The young man spoke. The surroundings of the classroom quickly became quiet. Lily didn't even raise her head, but she stretched out her left hand to quickly catch the lighter that was pointed at her face, put it on the teaching desk, and kept it in her mouth. Talk on and on. Obviously, her behavior caught everyone's surprise. The boy who threw the lighter was stunned for a moment, and then he took out a dark pistol from his trouser pocket, and pointed it at Lily with a cold mouth. Said, "Get out." Only then did Lily pause. The people around her didn't dare to breathe. Even the people sitting next to the boy looked uneasy. After Lily saw the boy clearly, she couldn't help but laugh. The boy's surname was Chin, and his mother was Chinese, but one of the women of a certain Italian black gang. After giving birth to his son, Chin Zayanan, who took his mother's surname, has always been favored by his father. In the plot, he is studying on the surface, but secretly he has been accepting the mafia's continuation. After being secretly trained by others, he finally fell in love with Yu Liangxin, and was willing to give up his dignity and work as a guard beside her incognito. His skills were very good. I don't know, you can bring guns into the school. Lily pushed the microphone away from her mouth. Seeing the young man's gloomy face, she got off the stage. In the plot, Qin Zayanan fell in love with Yu Liangxin. After that, he changed crazily for her, and after the incident between Yu Liangxin and the third prince broke out, he was one of the leaders who called on the classmates to play pranks on Zhu Beihe. Because of his underworld background, Many people in the class, they were all afraid of him, so Lily walked towards him, and this ignorant man actually started to pull the safety on the gun. Lily strode up to him, and before he could react, she stretched out her hand and pulled him on his wrist, using a clever force. Easily let him go. Although Lily had just entered the mission and had not practiced martial arts yet, her fighting skills were far beyond Shinzayanen's, so she still easily grabbed the pistol and played with it twice. Then he pointed the gun at Shinzayanen. Just now, the young man who was so cool and invincible in the world looked a little ugly when the gun was pointed at him. Lily stood so close to him that she could even feel his body. They all became extremely tight. You can't play with guns during class time. I'll confiscate them first and pick them up after class. Do you have any objections? Lily said as she pulled the safety catch that was originally opened by Shinzayanen again. Everyone in the classroom saw her doing this. Everyone took a breath. Shinzayanen's face became extremely gloomy. After seeing Lily pull up the gun safety, he snorted coldly, suddenly pushed the desk, and ran out of the classroom without looking back. As soon as he left, a group of talented people were stunned because Lily dared to offend the future heir of the underworld just now. Although Lily was still talking to herself in this class, no one said anything. Chat. This is the first time such a situation has happened to Zubehi since she started working in this school. After reading the textbook she had prepared long ago, the bell rang for the end of get out of class. Lily put away her things without hesitation, without even looking at the students with different expressions in the classroom, and after twisting the gun he returned to his office. She had classes in the afternoon, and Lily didn't plan to go back at noon. In this school, no one paid attention to her anyway, so Lily returned to her office. As soon as he closed the door and drew the curtains, he immediately took off his coat in the office and started to practice star training. Not only did someone in the school bring something as dangerous as a gun, but someone actually came to point it at him. It is too dangerous to be alone without martial arts. I set the alarm clock before class in the afternoon. Lily immersed herself in practicing martial arts. I wonder if it was her imagination. She found that she had been very lucky in recent missions. It seemed that the bodies of the original owners of several missions were very suitable for martial arts training. Now she is doing a star training. The technique is practiced with the 9-yang manual at the same time, and the effect seems to be even better than before after practicing for 2 or 3 days more. When Lily had just finished the last movement of the star body training technique, Lily had not had time to stop the slightest bit of internal energy swimming in her body. Suddenly, the door of the office was pushed open, and a soft voice said, "Zayahi, why did you drive Zayanan out of the classroom? And where was Aao? This morning he didn't even come to class." Normally, no one would knock on the door of Lily's office, and no one would knock on her door and push it open. Lily was startled when she saw someone coming in. The real power in the body stagnated for a moment, and the originally smooth and orderly real power suddenly became chaotic. After the collision, Lily felt tingling pain all over her body, her chest felt like she had been hit by someone, her throat felt sweet, and a bloody smell surged up. The injury was not serious, but at that moment, the body that had not yet stood upright fell weakly to the ground. Lily closed her eyes to adjust the breath in her body. The woman with the voice had already entered the office and began to spin around on the spot. "What should I do? Why didn't Aao come to class? Where did Mr. Zayanan go?" The sound of high heels hitting the ground couldn't be heard. Lily spent a few minutes to stabilize the real power in her body and swallowed the fishy smell in her mouth. Then she got up from the ground, her whole body was still a little weak. She picked up the water glass and took a sip. When she turned around and saw Yu Liangzin, who suddenly broke in and was talking non-stop, Lily took a deep breath and shouted, "Shut up." She didn't expect that Yu Liangzin would barge in today, and she almost lost her breath when she was startled. Fortunately, her internal strength was not strong at the moment, so there was no big trouble. However, Lily didn't have a good impression of Yu Liangzin at this time. Naturally, he put on a good face towards her. Teacher Yu himself asked for leave, so why is it so strange that Zhu Ao didn't come? What's more, Qin Zayanan has grown legs, so how do I know where he's going? Recently, due to the close relationship between Yu Liangzin and the third prince, although Zhu Beihe did not know about her relationship with Qi Tao and others before, he was quite jealous of her. In addition, the recent incident with Zhu Ao's son, so at this point in the plot, when Zhu Beihe spoke to Yu Liangzin, she was all yin and yang, and her attitude was not good, but Yu Liangzin used her mother-like heart that can tolerate all things to treat her badly. Her attitude was tolerant, and although she looked like a frustrated little daughter-in-law every time, she still came forward to her after silently shedding tears behind her back. If someone on campus hadn't found out later that Yu Liangzin was being kept by the third prince, and Yu Liangzin happened to know that it was Zhu Beihe who said this, the two of them wouldn't have really broken up with each other. Nothing had happened yet, and Lily's impatient expression only made Yu Liangzin's eyes turn red. She lowered her head and silently shed 2 tears, then raised her head firmly. Ziahe, are you angry with me recently? When Yu Liangzin said this, her voice was soft and thin. She looked up at Lily like a frustrated little daughter-in-law, and quickly lowered her head like a frightened deer. Her eyelashes couldn't help shaking. After she came in just now opening the door of Beihe's office, the scene inside could be seen by people outside at a glance. Yu Liangzin put her hands in front of her lower abdomen, as if she had made a mistake, which made several teachers outside look at her. Looked over here. Yu Lian's heart has changed a lot recently. Her black-rimmed glasses, which were originally unsightly and ugly, were taken off, and the seam on her forehead seemed to have been repaired by a master, revealing her perfect and beautiful little face. The clothes she was wearing were also of great value. It was obvious at first glance that they were cut by a famous designer, which revealed her figure that was originally hidden under the loose clothes. In fact, this was one of the reasons why Zhu Ao really fell in love with her. After dressing up, you looked like a woman. Lian Xian looks like a teenage girl, and she cannot tell that she is already in her 20s. Is something wrong? Lily glanced at her. Yu Liangzin's slender figure shrank, almost touching the wall, and then she said softly, Ziahe. I want to ask, Aao. She always showed this pitiful look. She clearly didn't like Zhu Ao in her heart, but when she called Zhu Ao's name, she called him Aao affectionately, even though Lily didn't have a good impression of Zhu Ao. But the same Lily had no good impression of Yu Liangzin, who attracted the admiration of others with her ambiguous attitude and then kept saying that the two were friends. Yu Liangzin and Zhu Ao were originally teachers and students. What friend? At this time, Zhu Ao had already confessed to her and was rejected. Yu Liangzin said that the two were friends and then thought that Zhu Ao really regarded her as a friend. Therefore, his attitude towards Zhu Ao was exactly the same as before, which finally made Zhu Ao more and more trapped. Deeply, it also indirectly caused Zhu Beihe's tragedy. Teacher Yu, please give him a call if you have time. I believe it would be better than asking me here. After Lily said this expressionlessly, Yu Liangzin looked like a frightened rabbit. He asked again, is there anything else? Under Lily's cold look, Yu Lian swallowed subconsciously and tried to straighten her chest. I also want to ask, Ziahe, why did you drive Xiaonan out of the classroom? I don't know if it was. When it came to her own students, Yu Liangzin initially acted like a frustrated little daughter-in-law, but then she gradually became more confident. The voice also became louder. I just want to ask, Ziahe, why did you drive Xiaonan out of the classroom? Teachers should not do such things. We should treat our classmates equally. If the original Zhu Beihe heard this, she might not be able to help but argue with Yu Liangzin. In the end, not only would she be unable to explain Yu Liangzin's many truths, but she would also be angry to death. However, At this time, Lily did not agree with her. Yu Liangzin was arguing about the reason. While Yu Liangzin was still talking about her reasons, Lily turned around and picked up the pistol she had collected from Qin Zayanan in class in the morning, grabbed Yu Liangzin's hand and put it on the palm of her hand. When Yu Liangzin, who was still trying to speak as a teacher just now, saw the pistol, she didn't know whether it was because she was frightened or because she was tortured too hard by the three princes yesterday. Her legs went weak and she leaned against the wall. Then she looked at Lily with a horrified look on her face, her eyes filled with red bloodshot eyes, and finally she slid softly along the wall to the ground. Her dress was pulled up by the movement of her sitting down, revealing her purple panties. Yu Liangzin, who was still able to calmly teach Qin Zayanan a lesson when facing the most vicious Qin Zayanan in the class, suddenly passed out after seeing the pistol. Lily was stunned for a moment, and the teachers who were standing outside to watch the fun were frightened. Jump, and hurriedly gathered around. What's wrong with her? A group of people asked, but no one helped Yu Liangzin, who fell to the ground. Lily put the gun in her hand back on the desk and dragged Yu Liangzin away. Get up, regardless of whether she was naked or not, put her outside his office and let her lean against the wall of the office, and continued to let her fall asleep. He had no intention of calling her for her or sending her to the hospital, and finally rushed over to surround her. Everyone nodded with doubts on their faces, returned to the office and closed the door. The group of people who were startled just now looked at the office door that had been closed again, and then saw Yu Liangzin, who was unconscious with his head tilted to one side. The normally aloof teachers looked at each other speechlessly. At one glance, after confirming that Yu Liangzin was okay, everyone dispersed in twos and threes. Lily returned to the office and looked at the time. There were still more than 2 hours before her class, so she was ready to practice the star training again. She was almost distracted by Yu Liangzin's trouble. At this moment, although her true strength, she was forced to calm down, but if she didn't straighten it out, she would probably feel uncomfortable for many days. In order to avoid the situation like Yu Liangzin happening again, Lily locked all the office doors. 2 hours later, the true power in her body circulated for several times, and the original pain in her limb slowly dissipated. When Lily reopened the door to her office, a group of people who were sitting around a table in twos and threes outside turned to look at Lily. The female teacher who took the initiative to greet Lily in the morning now saw Lily. Lily had a look of sympathy and anger on her face when she passed by this group of people. She stood up and whispered 2 words in Lily's ear: "Be careful." When entering the classroom in the afternoon, as soon as Lily pushed the classroom door open, something fell from above her head. Lily held the lesson plan in one hand and stretched out her head. A heavy brick fell on her hand. Lily raised her head. When I went to look, I discovered that someone had placed bricks on the top of the door frame. When the door was pushed, the bricks would fall off due to the force breaking their balance. A group of people in the classroom who were waiting to watch the show saw Lily unhurt. Instead, when they reached out and caught the brick, several people looked a little surprised at first, and then sneered. There were many people in the classroom, and Lily knew that these people should know who did this, but she refused to ask until she returned to her office after a class and found that the office was locked up with chains. I vaguely guessed that this matter must be related to the 3 princes of the so-called aristocratic school. Although Zhu Beihe was looked down upon by others in this school and had been punished in the past, there were instances of people throwing ink and water in the classroom, but it was very rare for people to go to her office to punish her like this. In the eyes of such a group of students, Zhu Lily was just an insignificant person. It's not worth their while at all, except that someone may have secretly hinted at this matter. Lily thought about the scene when she carried Yu Liangzin out of the office in the afternoon, and felt confident. Anyway, she had no classes today, so the office door was locked. Except for Qin Zayanan's gun, there was nothing of her own inside. Lily turned around and left, but not far from the school gate, she was hit by several people. Someone stop me. The leader was Chin Zayanan, who left the classroom angrily after he took a gun from him this morning. At this time, his expression was very gloomy, and several burly men following him clasped their hands in front of their lower abdomen. They all stared at Lily with unkind eyes. When the security guards on the campus not far away saw such a scene, they quickly retracted their heads and did not dare to poke them out again. "Are you okay?" Lily sighed. Her class this afternoon was supposed to be the last period. It was supposed to be the time for the school bus to arrive 10 minutes after she walked out. However, she was stopped by Chin Zayanan and others. She wanted to take the bus back today. Lily's wish will definitely not come true. At this moment, Lily has just entered the task and started practicing martial arts. After being stopped by these people, Lily began to regret not taking out Chin Zayanan's pistol during class in the afternoon. Even if he wouldn't kill anyone in public, it would be nice to at least be able to shock these people for the time being. It's okay that Chin Zayanan didn't listen to her speak. As soon as he heard her speak, his expression became a little ferocious. "She has some skills. I heard that teacher you came to talk to you about me and you knocked her unconscious. Now are you still in the hospital?" Lily suddenly felt speechless and asked the sky. She raised her head and glanced at the sky. No wonder the female teacher named Lulu told her to be careful after leaving the office door this afternoon. No wonder there was someone in the school. They began to punish her, and it turned out that she had moved her out after Yu Liangzin passed out in the afternoon. She must have been taken away by someone. Judging from the angry looks on the faces of the female teachers at that time, it was most likely one of the princes. Yu Liangzin was taken away by a certain prince, so others thought that he had knocked her unconscious. Therefore, under the instructions of these princes, people in the school began to trouble her. Thinking of this, Lily frowned. Chin Zayanan reached out to the back of his waist impatiently. "I'll give you a chance. As long as you break your right hand and go to the hospital to kneel down and admit your mistake to teacher Yu, I will let you go," Chin Zayanan said as he took out an electric wand and turned on the button. After that, the tip of the electric prod made a buzzing sound. In the past, when people in the school called Yu Liangzin, almost everyone called her by her first name. Even Chi Tao, one of the three princes, once said it clearly. After that, he could no longer bully Yu Liangzin. On the surface, although the students in the school obeyed Chi Tao's words, behind the scenes, everyone still looked disdainful when mentioning Yu Liangzin. However, they did not expect that Chin Zayanan would actually call him. Since Yu Liangzin is a teacher, it is obvious that she feels differently about Yu Liangzin. Chin Zayanan was born in the underworld, so at a young age, he spoke and acted with the ruthlessness of a person in the underworld. However, Lily neither wanted to break her hand at the moment, nor did she want to go to the hospital to kneel down and admit her mistake to Yu Liangzin. When he was trying to find a way to escape, a car suddenly honked its horn. A group of people turned their heads to look. Even the people in the guard room poked their heads out after seeing the car clearly. A group of campus police who were hiding in the security room just now and did not dare to come out hurriedly came out of the security room and subconsciously walked towards the car. "It's blocking the road," a somewhat familiar voice in Chinese with a slightly curled tongue came, followed by a slight cough. The guard nodded and bowed and laughed for a while before walking towards Chin Zayanan and others. "Master Chin, look, you guys are blocking the car, why don't you give way first, okay?" The security guard didn't even dare to show his face when he saw Chin Zayanan and others just now. At this moment, the person who was talking outside just said something about blocking the way, and the security guards came over and started to chase them away. Chin Zayanan, who was arrogant in the plot, actually turned his body and stepped aside. Lily was still wondering about the identity of the young man she met that day. But he saw that the car window was not closed. The young man with deep features was looking at her and smiling. His half-length slightly curly blonde hair was tied up with a black ribbon. He was obviously dressed in a feminine style, but there was something unusually harmonious about him. Sentence, get in the car. This sentence made Zayanan and others' expressions change, but Lily knew that this person was trying to save herself, so she walked around to the other side of the car and opened the door without hesitation. The car started and threw a group of guards, Zayanan and others behind. Lily sat in the back seat of the RV with the curtain in the middle. She couldn't see the rearview mirror in front of her, nor could she see the expression on Zayanan's face at this moment, but she could guess that the group of people must have very good-looking expressions at this moment. Thank you. This strange young man helped her twice. Lily thanked him now, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. It is my honor to serve you, madam. Today, this young man is wearing a black velvet formal jacket with a neat white shirt underneath. The neckline has a dark golden pattern, giving it a low-key luxury feel. He didn't have a book in his hand now as he did yesterday. She tilted her head and stared at Lily, with a pair of eyes as deep as the sea. When she looked at the person intently, she gave off a feeling of affection. Even though he helped her yesterday, the two of them didn't say a few words in total. As if he was in a good mood today, he pursed his lips and looked at her and smiled. The lady seems to have gotten into some trouble. His blue eyes were full of gentle smiles. This man had a smile that made people feel like they were in spring breeze. He could easily win the favor of others, but in fact he was not very approachable. Lily could feel it when she took a ride with him before. Although he was kind enough to let Lily get on the bus, he never said a word to her from beginning to end. Although it was not an attitude of rejecting others thousands of miles away, it was actually a polite attitude. He looked polite, but Lily could see that he was not a talkative person. He didn't expect that he would mention his troubles at this moment. Lily was stunned for a moment, and then nodded. It seems like this of. After saying this, there seemed to be a moment of silence in the car. The young man looked at her with a smile, his eyes gentle and calm. Lily thought for a while and simply told her about Yu Liangxin coming to her at noon, that Qin who had class in the morning, a classmate brought dangerous items, and he left after I confiscated the items. A teacher at the school named Yu thought I had kicked Qin out of the classroom, so he came to ask me why. When I handed the items to her, maybe there was a misunderstanding and I fainted from fright. When Yu Liangxin came to ask Lily why she kicked Zayanan out of the classroom, Lily actually wanted to give her the pistol and tell her the reason. Unexpectedly, Yu Liangxin was so timid that she fainted when she saw the pistol. She was so faint that she got herself into trouble for no apparent reason. Lily began to feel a little irritated. She originally wanted to work in the school in an ordinary way and live a good life for Zhu Beihe, but if she continued to follow Zhu Beihe in the future, Yulian and Yulian are in the same campus. Lily is afraid that she will encounter such trouble again. People like Zayanan are so bold that they dare to take out electric batons in public and threaten to break their hands in school. Who knows that Yulian loves Yulian? What kind of things will these princes of my heart do in the future? That's really unfortunate. Seeing Lily's frown, the smiling young man comforted her. Since it's all a misunderstanding, it'll be fine if you clarify it. Don't worry. When he spoke, his expression was serious and gentle. Lily's smile had a relaxing power. Lily nodded. After the car went down the mountain, it stopped at the place where she got off yesterday. Lily thanked the young man again before leaving. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan Erwr. Chapter 451. Because someone gave her a ride when she was going down the mountain, Lily returned to Zhu's house quickly. She knocked on the door, and the door was opened from the inside, revealing Zhu Ao's gloomy face. When he saw Lily, Zhu Ao's face suddenly showed an extremely angry look. His originally handsome face changed at this time. Starting from the bridge of his nose, it was a little red, swollen and purple. The elbow that Lily gave him yesterday made him the beating was severe, and now the cheeks around his nose were swollen. When he saw Lily, he was both angry and could not hide his resentment. "How dare you come back," he said. Stretched out his hand to lock the door, but he remembered something else and suddenly opened the door again. "How are you doing with Sister Liang Xin?" When Zhu Ao said this, the hand that was pressing on the door was clenched into a fist and heavily supported on the door. One hand pointed at the tip of Lily's nose and said angrily, "What did you do to her yesterday? Why didn't she answer the question, my phone?" Yesterday, Zhu Bei he didn't have time to do anything. The reason why Yu Liangxin didn't answer Zhu Ao's call was because she didn't have time to answer Zhu Ao's call at that time. However, later in the plot, Zhu Ao thought that Zhu Lily was doing something to Yu Liangxin. Something happened, so the two siblings had a fierce quarrel for the first time. Zhu Ao even made a move on Zhu Lily. From then on, the two siblings were completely at odds. Today, Lily first met Qin Zayan and Psychopath, and now she has to listen to Zhu Ao's roar when she returns home. Her face suddenly darkened, and she reached out and slapped away Zhu Ao's hand pointing at the tip of her nose. "Don't point at me. Just give me some advice. I won't care about what's going on between you and Yu Liangxin." He just finished speaking. Zhu Ao was like an angry lion. He almost jumped up and roared loudly. "Why do you care about me? You are not my mother. You are always meddling with me just because you have too stinky money. How much money do I owe you? I will pay you back." As he said this, he took his wallet and threw it at Lily. "From now on, live with your money and stay out of my business." Lily has been penniless since she lost her wallet. She hadn't had time to call to report the loss of her bank card. It was still several days before her salary was paid. When Zhu Ao's wallet was thrown over, Lily instinctively caught it. When she opened it, she saw that there was nearly 1,000 yuan in it. Although Zhu Ao's family is not a wealthy one, Zhu Ao has never been short of money since he was a child. His parents and sisters always responded to any request. As a high school student, he had more money than Zhu Lily, so in the end he had the nerve to call Zhu Lily vain. After taking out the money and putting it into her bag, Lily raised her hand and threw the wallet into the trash can in the corridor not far away. Her move made Zhu Ao, who was already extremely excited, feel as if he had been stimulated for a moment. Cursed angrily, clenched his fist and hit her. Lily's face darkened. He tilted his head to the side to avoid Zhu Ao's fist. Seeing that he couldn't hold back enough, he took 2 steps towards the side. Lily just kicked him to the hollow of his knee. When Zhu Ao's body went limp and he knelt on the ground, the situation where Lily grabbed his hair yesterday happened again. Lily slapped him without thinking. On the face, "If you dare to touch me again in the future, I will beat you to death." This slap on Zhu Ao's face didn't actually hurt much, but the obviously hurt self-esteem made him unable to bear it, and he began to struggle desperately. The movement outside was quickly heard by Zhu's father and mother, who were sitting in the house watching TV. At this moment, the two people came out in a hurry and saw Lily suppressing Zhu Ao to the ground. The two people quickly came over to break up the fight. "What's wrong? Why are you arguing again?" Zhu Ao was obviously embarrassed when his parents saw him being beaten. He didn't know where he got the strength from. He endured the pain and threw Lily's hand away. He crawled forward 2 steps, stood up and held the hand in front of her. Zhu Ao came to persuade Zhu's mother to push him away. He pushed Zhu's mother into the wall. Zhu Ao pointed at Zhu's mother and said, "She hit me. You all saw it? I don't have such a sister. She is in this family without me. Since you gave birth to her, what else do you need me to do? Zaya, he is your sister. There is nothing we can't talk about between the two siblings. Your sister was so kind to you in the past. You want to study in a noble school, and she even used her own savings to pay your tuition." Zhu's father originally said he stretched out his hand to pull his son, hoping that he would calm down. Unexpectedly, Zuao, who was already furious, immediately turned his face when he heard the word money. I don't care about her dirty money. I won't read the book anymore, so I will give it back to her. From now on, we will not owe each other anything. We don't owe each other anything? Where did you get the shamelessness to say such a thing? Lily sneered, shaking her palms that were a little hot after just beating Zuao. I don't know who was trying to coax my bad money back then. You were so low-mouthed, and now it smells bad. I never heard you say a bad word when you used it. Lily's words were like adding fuel to the fire, and Zuao started to go crazy again, and he started to stretch out his hand. He came over and wanted to hit Lily, but the couple from the Zhu family stood in the middle. Zuao didn't pay attention in his excitement, and slapped Zhu's mother on the face with a snap sound. This incident made several people stunned. When the neighbors heard the noise here, they opened the door one after another. Once Zuao hit Zhu's mother, he saw Zhu's mother's unbelievable eyes, and his eyes flashed with a guilty conscience. He winced, but said forcefully, "You forced me. I originally wanted to hit her, but why did you stop me here?" After he said that, he turned around and started running downstairs. Zuao used this trick every time he got into trouble. Zhao, Lily originally stretched out her hand to grab him back, but when she stretched out her hand, Zhu's mother pulled her back and said anxiously, "Go and have a look. Your brother is young and talks big but doesn't mean anything. Don't argue with him." Zuao's slap just now was not light. At this time, there were bloodshot eyes on the corners of Zuao's mouth, and a slap mark quickly appeared on her cheek. Lily pulled her into the room. "He is such an adult, what else are you looking at? If you have the ability to run away, if you have the ability not to come back." Originally, Lily's words were just an unintentional remark, and Zhu's family didn't take it to heart. Zhu's mother called her son, but Zuao didn't answer. She thought he was angry at this time and he would call back after a while. After all, he made such a big fuss today that even his mother dared to beat him. Zhu's father also wanted to teach him a lesson. Unexpectedly, more than half an hour later, the hospital called and said that Zuao had been in a car accident. The family hurriedly took a taxi and rushed to the hospital. Zuao had now been pushed into the operating room. A middle-aged male doctor wearing glasses was introducing Zuao's discovery to Zhu's father. He ran a red light and was hit by a car. His picture has been taken. Take a look. Zuao rushed out and started wandering on the road today. He was originally going to find Yu Liangxin, but then he remembered that he had thrown his wallet to Lily. In anger, Zuao was going to walk over to find Yu Liangxin, but he didn't expect to be hit by a car. Fortunately, the driver, instead of driving away immediately, he got out of the car and called emergency services and the police. Zhu's mother whined and sat beside a simple and honest man who was crying. The nurse had already brought the list and Zuao's things and urged Zuao's family and the driver to pay the surgery fee. Lily only had the 1,000 yuan she just took from Zuao, and she wanted to use it on Zuao now. She was absolutely unwilling, so she stood still and just stretched out her hand to take what the nurse handed over. It was a transparent bag, which contained Zuao's belt, cell phone, lighter and other items. The other one was Zuao's checklist. Lily took the phone to read it first. Almost all the calls made on the phone were from Yu Liangxin, but unfortunately Yu Liangxin didn't answer any of them. Almost all the text messages were sent to Yu Liangxin, and the rest were sent to Zuao's friends. It was just talking bad about Zhu Beihe, and the most recent text message sent to Yu Liangxin had not been edited yet, asking why Yu Liangxin didn't answer his call. Did Zhu Beihe bully her? Zuao was probably looking at his phone at that time. So I didn't notice that the red light came on, and that's why today's disaster happened. She took another look at the phone with some gloating, and Lily threw it back into the bag. Her attention finally fell on the stack of inspection lists. In addition to Zuao's current situation on it, One of the items was immediately dismissed. Lily's eyes widened. She wondered if it was because the driver had paid part of the money before. The hospital gave Zuao a full-body examination, which included a blood test. The list said Zuao I have type B blood. But Lily remembered that in the plot, Lily Zhu had done a full-body physical examination when she entered the aristocratic school. At that time, because the blood type test was just a casual test, Lily Zhu also checked her blood type. If she remembered correctly, Lily Zhu should have blood type O. Lily collected the list and saw Zuao's mother who was scolding and crying with the driver who hit Zuao, so she pulled her over. Mom, calm down first. The honest man glanced at Lily gratefully. His face was scratched by Zhu's mother, but he was so aggrieved that he didn't dare to say a word. After seeing Lily pull Zhu's mother away, he sighed and sat down, mouthing it screamed bad luck and almost made Zhu's mother go crazy again. Lily quickly settled Zuao's mother, rolled her eyes, and said softly, Mom, let's just go for a blood test. Zuao was in a car accident, and it is very likely that he will need a blood transfusion later. We may still give him a blood test by then can help. Zhu's mother was originally a little confused as to why her daughter asked her to get a blood test. After hearing the next few words from Lily, she nodded hurriedly, got up and took Lily and asked for a blood test. The blood type test was done very quickly. Lily, after paying the fee and having the blood drawn, she only waited for about 10 minutes before the results came out. She remembered correctly. She and Zhu's mother both had type O blood. Lily used the same excuse just now to treat Zhu's father. He also called over and did a blood type test. When he got the results, he found that the whole family had type O blood, but only Zuao had type B blood. Dad, something seems wrong. Our whole family has type O blood. Zuao is my younger brother. How can he have type B blood? Now that a big thing was confirmed, Lily took out the list of Zuao's test results and handed it to Zhu's father. When he saw that Zuao's blood type test was type B, Zhu's father's face suddenly turned ugly. When he got up, he subconsciously glanced at Zhu's mother first, and Zhu's mother also looked a little confused. They were both teachers before they retired. Although they didn't know as much about this blood type as professional doctors, they also knew about the same blood type. It is impossible for parents to give birth to children with different blood types. Mother Zhu handed over the list, and her face instantly turned ugly. Did the inspection go wrong? Zhu's father was silent and did not speak. The atmosphere in the family suddenly became awkward. Zhu's mother had no time to cry that her son had been in a car accident. At this time, she thought of a terrible guess. Tell me, is Zuao not ours, son? No one answered the question. When the bell rang in the operating room, everyone fell silent when they looked at Zuao, who had just been pushed out after the operation. The surgeon in charge originally saw Zuao's mother crying very sadly when he saw Zuao being pushed into the operating room. He thought she would be happy now that the operation was very successful. Unexpectedly, Zhu's mother just glanced at him and didn't show much joy when she heard the news. Instead, he stared at Zuao with a strange expression. When Zuao was pushed into the ward, the 3 Zhu family members squeezed in and stared at him. There were some scratches on his cheeks, but it did not damage his appearance. In the past, the family did not think that Zuao might not be a member of Zhu's family, so they didn't feel anything. Now they had doubts in their hearts. The more they looked at Zuao, the more they felt that he was different from Zuao. The family looked different. I wish my father to be handsome, with thick eyebrows and big eyes. Zhu's mother is also delicate and pretty. Zhu Bei combines the physical advantages of both her parents. She can see the shadow of Zhu's father and the appearance of Zhu's mother. However, Zuao is an anomaly in the Zhu family. Zuao is an outlier in the Zhu family. My father is an intellectual. He is only of average height, but Zhuao has the tall frame of a northerner. The eye sockets are also very deep. In the past, people would only praise their parents for having children and a pair of children. The son was handsome and the daughter was delicate. The couple never thought that the son might not be theirs, but now they had doubts in their hearts, and they became more and more. Zhuao felt something was wrong. He suppressed the anxiety in his heart and waited until the anesthetic wore off and the doctor came over to ask if he wanted to give Zhuao another pain-relieving injection. Zhu's father had planned to give Zhuao another blood test, but he was worried that the painkillers would affect the blood type test. So he shook his head and refused in a heartless manner. Zhuao was in excruciating pain that night, moaning all the time, and broke out in cold sweats all over his body in the middle of the night. He didn't feel better until dawn. The next morning when the nurse came to check the ward, Zhu's father requested to check Zhuao's blood type again. The nurse did not doubt his presence and quickly drew Zhuao's blood. When the results were obtained, Zhu's father looked at the B blood type still marked on it, and his face turned a little green. Seeing that her parents were about to fight, Lily saw Zhu's mother's aggrieved and angry look, and hurriedly tried to persuade her. "Dad, I don't think this has anything to do with Mom. I do think Zhuao looks nothing like any of us. Did I hold him in the wrong position when I gave birth to him?" At first, Zhu's father thought his daughter's words were a bit ridiculous, but somehow, the more he thought about it, the more it made sense. When Zhuao was born, the couple were just private teachers. Moreover, the couple, who already had college degrees, specifically applied to teach for free in a remote mountainous area outside the capital for a period of time. Zhuao was born there, and it was precisely because they had such an experience. So the final application for full-time job went very smoothly. At that time, the conditions for giving birth in the countryside were not good. When Zhu Lily's mother had an attack, there were 2 other pregnant women in the small rural clinic who were also giving birth. Because Zhu Beihe was still young at that time, Zhu's father had to take care of his daughter and take care of his wife, so he didn't pay attention when his son was born and washed and brought out. If the hug was really wrong, maybe it was the mistake made when the baby was born in the countryside. Thinking of this, Zhu's father clapped his hands and decided to do a paternity test for Zhuao and himself. Zhuao didn't know that there was something wrong with his blood type at this moment. He was young and in good health in the past. Therefore, even though he suffered a little bit because of the lack of painkillers that night after the operation, he still recovered soon after the blood was drawn the next day. When he woke up, he found that a broken rib had penetrated into his internal organs yesterday. Although he had just undergone surgery and it was no longer life-threatening, he still had to receive an intravenous drip every day to help the wound recover. As soon as he woke up, he opened his mouth and shouted, "Mom, I'm hungry, I want to eat beef noodles, Mom." Originally, Zhu's mother was discussing Zhuao's life experience with her husband and daughter outside the ward. She wondered if Zhuao might not be her son. When Zhu's mother heard him ordering her around, she felt a wave of boredom in her heart. Thinking again of the slap he slapped her yesterday, if this slap was slapped by her biological son, Mother Zhu would not be angry with her son. But now Zhuao is not her biological son at all, and Mother Zhu knows better than anyone else that she is related to him. Her husband had never messed around in decades, so he became a little impatient with Zhuao. She didn't sleep all night, and she didn't know where her biological child had gone yesterday. At this time, an unknown fire broke out, and she heard the house. The more Li Zhuao yelled, the louder his voice sounded. He suddenly pushed the door open and said with a cold face, "What are you yelling about? You can't eat after the operation. Don't you know?" In the past, Mother Zhu always loved her children. In addition, Zhu's mother is a literary and artistic person, and she has never been so rude in her speech. Zhuao was shouted stiffly. He was already at a rebellious age, and now Zhu's mother's words were unacceptable to him. He didn't think so. If he didn't want to, he stretched out his hand to pull the intravenous needle on the back of his hand, while his eyes were still staring at Zhu's mother. If Mother Zhu had seen him act like this before, she would have definitely stepped forward to coax him, and would have agreed to a series of his requests. Maybe if he asked Zhu's mother to drive Lily out, his wish would come true. After all, since he was the youngest, his family had loved him very much since he was a child. But at this moment, Zhu Ao's hand had already touched the drip tube, and Zhu's mother had already touched the drip tube. But as if he didn't see it, he turned his head and disappeared. Zhu Ao saw this situation. Startled, he furiously guessed that Lily might have said something bad about him. Thinking of the way his parents and Lily were gathering outside to prevent him from hearing, he suddenly reached out and picked up the needlework on the back of his hand. The tube was torn off, and when the needle was pulled out, it scratched the flesh and blood vessels, and blood flowed all over the back of the hand. Zhu Ao himself was in pain and angry, but he felt a sense of revenge coming out of him. He was deeply afraid that Zhu's mother outside would not hear the noise in his ward, so he endured the pain in his body and reached out to sweep the folders next to the hospital bed to the floor. This action obviously tore the wound, and Zhu Ao gasped in pain. The surgical wound, which had scabbed over overnight, now began to ooze blood again. The noise attracted the attention of several people outside. When Lily and Zhu's father and mother entered the ward, they saw sewing tubes falling all over the floor. Zhu Ao's face was pale at this time, and his forehead was so painful that he broke into a cold sweat. He looked like he wanted to cry but pretended not to care, and couldn't help but sneer. After ripping it off, do you think anyone will pay you to buy new anti-inflammatories? It's okay that she didn't say this. Zhu Ao, who felt aggrieved as soon as she said it, yelled angrily, "Get out of here, I don't want you to worry about me. Anyway, I am an orphan who has no parents to like me. You just have to just like Zhu Lily." Originally, Zhu's father and mother were estranged and suspicious of him. As soon as Zhu Ao said these words, the two couples looked at each other, and their faces became a little ugly. When the nurse outside heard the noise and came over to look, she happened to see the things scattered on the ground and Zhu Ao's bleeding hand. She took a breath of cold air and quickly took gauze to bandage Zhu Ao. The atmosphere in the ward was very strange. Zhu Ao was fierce at first, but in the end he saw that Zhu's father and mother did not come to comfort him as usual, and he couldn't help but panicked a little, but he couldn't pull that face off to apologize, so he snorted coldly. "Where's my phone?" After all, he was the child he had raised for more than 10 years. Although Zhu Ao was disgusted with the way Zhu Ao was angry now, seeing his pale face, he still handed over the mobile phone he had put away for him last night. When he got the mobile phone, it was as if he had got some treasure. He ignored the people in the ward and directly dialed Yu Liangxin's number. When talking to Yu Liangxin, Zhu Ao's expression suddenly became gentle. He told the story of his car accident with some grievance, and also emphasized that he was injured because of Yu Liangxin. Zhu's parents felt more and more heartbroken after listening to what he said. Yesterday, he slapped Zhu's mother and never thought about calling her to apologize, nor did he think about how sad Zhu's mother would be, but he cared about an outsider. The two Zhu family members involuntarily thought in their hearts that Zhu Ao was the thought of an unfamiliar white-eyed wolf made his eyes look colder and colder. Yu Liangxin seemed to have also told her about her fainting yesterday. Lily heard Yu Liangxin's voice mentioning her name on the phone with sharp ears. Then Zhu Ao looked at her like he wanted to eat someone, and he gritted his teeth and cursed. Cried out. "Vicious woman." Lily just thought it was funny when she heard this, but Zhu's mother was very angry. Before she could speak, Zhu Ao had already said gently. "You want to come see me? But you are very tired from the trip, Sister Liangxin. Why don't you wait until I recover from my injury and then come to see you? We watched you all night last night and didn't see you to say thank you for your hard work. Now you are very nervous when others come to see you." Zhu's mother frowned tightly, curled her lips and angrily pulled her husband and daughter away from the ward. "Come on," Zuo was on the phone at the moment. Seeing Zhu's mother's actions, he just snorted, and then started chatting with Yu Liangzin on the phone. Taking advantage of Zuo's hospitalization for a few days, Lily spent money to submit the paternity test results of Zuo and his parents to the test center. Before the results came out, Zhu's father and mother would still go to the hospital every day. However, Zuo could keenly feel that his parents were alienated from him. He had always been pampered. Although he was a little panicked about this situation, he didn't know what to do, so he had to use the same trick that had always worked before, which was the purpose of sarcastic remarks to his parents and hurting himself was to stimulate Zhu's father and Zhu's mother to still be as obedient to him as before, but he didn't expect that Zhu's father and Zhu's mother had long been suspicious of him, and now Zuo is making trouble again. What little affection was left was quickly lost. At first, Zhu's father and Zhu's mother even cooked food to visit him, until Zuo was impatient and swept things to the ground because he thought the food was not delicious. Zhu's mother, who had been holding back for a long time, finally became angry. "Pick it up." The thermos bucket rolled to the ground, and the soup and water inside spilled all over the floor. Although Zhu's mother was heartbroken when she first found out that her son might not be hers, after all, she had raised him since he was born. Even if there is no blood love, there is still family love, but what Zuo has done recently has made Zuo's mother more and more intolerable to him. At this moment, he is still losing his temper, with a look of disgust on his face. He pointed at something on the ground and asked Zuo to pick it up. Zuo snorted twice, took the mobile phone he put next to the bed and started playing with it. Turning a deaf ear to Zhu's mother's words, when Lily and Zhu's father rushed over, they saw Zhu's mother was so angry that her face turned blue and her whole body was shaking. Originally, Lily didn't want to come to the hospital to see Zuo. But she asked for 10 days leave from school. Firstly, she could avoid Qinzayan and psychopath, and she could also practice martial arts during this time. Secondly, she could investigate Zuo's life experience clearly. Lily stayed there every day these days. Practicing martial arts at home, although it cannot achieve the results of several years of practice in previous missions, it can at least give Lily some confidence. She is no longer in the passive beating stage like before. This is her 10th day of leave. At the same time, she also made an appointment with the identification center to get the results. In the morning, she was going to come with Zhu's father to pick up Zhu's mother. Unexpectedly, as soon as she entered the ward, she saw Zhu's mother almost bursting into tears. "Mom, let's go." Lily pulled Zhu's mother, and Zuo, whose wounds had already healed after being raised in the hospital bed for more than 10 days, sat up immediately. "I have no more phone calls. Dad, please help me recharge 200. Zhu's father didn't say anything. When Zuo saw this situation, he suddenly felt as if he was isolated, and his brows immediately stood up. "My mobile phone has no air credit." He has to send messages and make phone calls to Yu Liangzin every day, and the phone bills go up very quickly, especially after the car accident in the past 10 days. Zuo has free time in the hospital and no longer has to do the same thing as before. When he went to study, his phone bill was used up even faster. In addition, young people like to use data. In less than 10 days, he used up the 200 phone bills and packages that he had just recharged before the accident. Now the cell phone has already indicated that the bill is about to be arrears. Thinking that it is almost 12 o'clock and Yu Liangzin is about to finish class, Zuo's heart almost flies. Now he is so excited that he asks Zhu's father to help charge the phone bill. Seeing that Zhu's father didn't say a word, Zuo suddenly felt unhappy and blurted out without thinking. "Zhu, he took more than 1,000 from me that day. If you don't want to recharge my phone bill, just give the money back to me." When Lily heard this, she couldn't help but laugh. "I will pay you back more than 1,000, and you will pay me back the tuition of more than 300,000. Zhu Ao's face suddenly sank, and he slammed the cell phone he was holding against the wall with his heavy hand. Seeing such a scene, Lily just curled her lips coldly. She is now 80% sure that Zhu Ao is not the biological son of the Zhu family. It doesn't matter how arrogant Zhu Ao is at this moment. A boy who has not graduated from high school and is just 16 years old, he is no matter how arrogant he is. If he has the ability, will he be able to stand up after leaving the Zhu family? The more he jumps now, the happier I will be when I deal with him in the future. Even if I got the test results today and found out that Zhu Ao is the son of Mr. and Mrs. Zhu, the hospital made a mistake at first, so the relationship between Mr. and Mrs. Zhu during this period has his suspicion, and the estrangement between the two parties were enough for him in the future. If his parents didn't love him, what else would Zhu Ao have to cause trouble? Instead of trying to talk to Zhu Ao now, since he broke his cell phone and no one would buy it for him, Lily pulled Zhu and his wife out of the ward door, and Zhu Ao's crazy roar came from behind. They first went to the identification center to get the results. Although they were mentally prepared, after Zhu's father and Zhu's mother saw that the above test results proved that Zhu Ao was indeed not their son, the two couples did not know whether they breathed a sigh of relief or showed a little melancholy. With a look on her face, Lily comforted the two of them with a few words. Zhu's mother had not been sad for a long time, and decided to continue to adopt Zhu Ao. After all, she had raised Zhu Ao for more than 10 years. Although she was a little sad that he was not her child, even if she had raised a pet for more than 10 years, it would be a bit sad. Although Zhu Ao's recent troubles have broken the hearts of the two couples, now that Zhu Ao is half a child, they can't just leave him alone and ignore them. But Zhu's father discussed with Zhu's mother that he wanted to transfer Zhu Ao to another school, after knowing that he was not his biological son. Zhu's father naturally refused to let him spend his daughter's money like before. While Zhu Ao was still staying in the hospital and refused to come out, Zhu's father quickly processed Zhu Ao's transfer information with Lily's help. At this time, Zhu Ao had been hospitalized for 15 days. He had been staying in the hospital and refused to come out. The hospitalization fee and surgery fee paid by Zhu Ao's father had long been used up, and now he owed the hospital nearly a month. Thousands of dollars in expenses. In the end, the hospital had no choice but to call home and ask Zhu's father to pay the remaining money and take Zhu Ao out. Because she had to take care of Zhu Ao's transfer to another school during this period, Lily took a few more days off as the vacation was about to end. She also went to the hospital with Zhu's father. When he arrived at Zhu Ao's ward, the door was just open. Zhu Ao's surprised cheers came from inside. "Sister Liangzin, why are you here too?" "Ao, I'm here to see you." Yu Liangzin's gentle voice came out. Lily subconsciously stopped her steps, and Zhu's father also stopped at the door when he was about to go in. Yu Liangzin seemed a little worried. Asked with concern, "Ao, how did you successfully transfer to another school recently?" When Zhu Ao heard this, he couldn't help laughing. "I didn't transfer to another school. I'm very happy staying with you now. Why should I transfer?" Originally, Zhu Bei paid hundreds of thousands of tuition fees a year for him to enter the aristocratic school. She originally wanted him to study hard, but she didn't expect that he ended up entering the school to pick up girls. Lily sneered, but Yu Liangzin looked like as if he was amused. He stretched out his hand and gently scratched his face. Such a grown man speaks in a slippery tone. There was a sense of ambiguity in the two people's approach to each other. Zhu Ao giggled again, and Yu Liangzin asked worriedly, "But since you haven't transferred to another school, how comes he has already completed your transfer?" "What?" Zhu Ao, who was smiling at first, almost jumped off the bed when he heard this. He almost fell down. Yu Lian hurriedly caught him and immediately fell into his arms. Yu Liangzin struggled for a while with a red face, but Zhu Ao couldn't help but hug her tighter. Seeing this scene, Lily, who was standing by the door, glanced at Zhu's father, whose face was ashen, and asked, "Hold her, is that enough?" Yu Liangzin was like a frightened little rabbit. She didn't know where the strength came from. She pushed Zhu Ao down on the hospital bed. At the same time, she jumped up and hurriedly stretched out her hands to straighten her clothes, as if he looked a little embarrassed. Although she had used concealer under her neck, there were still faint red marks. When she just got up from the hospital bed, her skirt was pulled up a little higher, and bruised fingerprints could still be seen on her thighs. Recently, Yu Liangzin's expression looked much haggard, Lily's mouth twitched. Yu Liangzin became more nervous when she looked at her like this, her legs were clamped tightly, and she bowed and nodded to Father Zhu. "Come. Uncle." She had met Zhu Ao several times when she came to visit Zhu Ao, so she naturally knew his identity. At this moment, Zhu Ao saw her and Zhu Ao hugging each other. Yu Liangzin's cheeks were red and she looked, "There was a feeling of pity for me." She looked at Lily pitifully and then stammered. "Xiao, Ziahe, you, why did you transfer Aao to another school?" When talking about Zhu Ao's transfer to another school, Yu Liangzin's expression quickly calmed down. She considered herself a competent and responsible teacher. At this time, she felt that Zhu Ao's behavior of transferring to another school was very inappropriate, so his expression became serious. Now Aao is gradually adapting to the education in school. It will be very disadvantageous for him to transfer to another school now, I think. What do you think? Teacher Yu, this seems to be our housework and has nothing to do with you, Lily interrupted Yu Liangzin and waved her hand impatiently. "If nothing happens, please go out. I am Aao's teacher. His business is my business. How come it has nothing to do with me?" "Ziahe, you have changed. You were not like this before." When Yu Liangzin heard Lily's words, something appeared on her face. Come with a look of disappointment. She bit her pink lips, with tears rolling in her eyes. She sniffed and was about to speak, but Lily burst out laughing. "He is your student? I thought he was you. Where's your lover? I'm just afraid that if he stays with you for a long time, he will be ruined for the rest of his life. Teacher Yu, do you know that what you did is wrong?" Yu Liangzin originally wanted to accuse Lily of not considering Zhu Ao's future, but unexpectedly she scolded him instead, and her eyes turned red. A look of grievance appeared on his face. "You know, I'm not that kind of person. Just because I know very well what kind of person you are, so please stop interfering in our Zhu family's business." Lily emphasized the word Zhu family, and when Zhu Ao saw that his sweetheart was being Lily was speechless as she asked, how could she still sit still? She jumped up and pointed at Lily and said, "Shut up. Sister Liangzin is doing this for me. Do you think I don't know why you want to transfer me to another school? You just don't want to pay my tuition fees." In the past, Zhu Ao always used to talk about not studying or wanting to transfer to another school. He threatened his family, but he knew the character of the Zhu family. He had spent hundreds of thousands of Zhu Beihe to enter the aristocratic school. There was no way they would let the money go to waste, so he had always been confident. But he didn't expect that Beihe would not even care about the hundreds of thousands and directly transfer himself to another school. He would not only be unable to see Yu Liangzin in the future. What's more important is that after being transferred out of an aristocratic school and returning to an ordinary school, what will others think of me? But after he no longer had anything to threaten Lily, Zhu Ao seemed a little guilty and short of breath. After he shouted these words, his face showed a look of despair and fear, and Yu Liangzin seemed to have found a reason. Suddenly realized. So that's it, but Ziahe. Aao was in a car accident this time. Someone else should have paid for it. He was almost dead. If someone else lost some money, they can use it to pay for tuition. There is no need to transfer to another school. Yu Liangzin's seemingly unintentional words immediately moved Zhu Ao's heart, and his eyes lit up. He then remembered that he had just been in a car accident. In Zhu Ao's imagination, others would definitely pay for it if he had a car accident, so when she was a little proud and was about to speak, Lily snorted. Money. He ran a red light and crossed the road to play with his mobile phone. Even if he didn't hit him to death, he was lucky. He still wants to pay for it? The little medical expenses they paid for him are not enough now. For a reasonable person like Teacher Yu, why not pay for him? I hope Ao will settle the bill at the hospital. As she spoke, Yu Liangzhen's face turned red, her head dropped again, and she did not dare to speak any more. Lily knew that Yu Liangzhen had no money. Because she grew up in an orphanage, she sent her monthly salary back to the orphanage as soon as she got it. All the clothes she wore were prepared for her by the third prince on campus. I am usually very thrifty, so as soon as Lily finished speaking, Yu Liangzhen choked up twice and did not dare to speak. Zhu Ao's heart jumped with joy just now, and then what Lily said knocked him down again, but he didn't believe it in his heart, so he looked at Zhu's father with suspicion in his eyes. When Zhu's father asked him to be discharged from the hospital, he didn't want to leave at first, but in the end the hospital sent security guards to ask him to go out. Zhu Ao had no choice but to pack his things and follow Zhu's father and leave. During this period of time, Lily had taken more than 10 days off because of Zhu Ao's matter, and also to avoid that lunatic Qin Zayanan. Lily had not returned to school for more than 10 days. She was standing at the foot of the mountain waiting for the school transportation bus to go down the mountain. The black and inconspicuous car stopped by the road, and he stretched out a hand to grab her in. Lily had been practicing martial arts every day for more than half a month, and now her body reaction was much more sensitive than before. She kicked the car door with great force. The car door closed with a bang, and she immediately clamped the outstretched hand. Muffled hums and curses came from the car. A man with stockings on his head pushed open the car door angrily, and relied on his tall figure to reach out and grab Lily into the car. He also held a handkerchief in his hand, grabbing Lily's hand with the other hand, and trying to cover her mouth with the handkerchief. Apart from Qin Zayanan, who was born in a black family, Lily couldn't think of any other such despicable means. Who would use such a method? She suddenly squatted down to avoid the big man's hand that was trying to cover her mouth with a handkerchief dipped in medicine. She stretched out her right leg and kicked the big man's knee in the back. This man looked like he had been trained. His lower body was as solid as a rock. It might be useless to kick his ankle, but when he was kicked in the kneecap, he couldn't help but kneel on the ground. Lily stiletto stepped on him and took it. Handkerchief. She exerted force on her feet and heard the sound of bones cracking, but the big man couldn't hold back even a hum. Lily threw her bag aside and grabbed the big man's hair and knees with both hands. It hit him hard in the face. The face was already a fragile place, and Lily hit it with internal force. The big man couldn't hold it back anymore and let out a muffled groan. The hand that originally wanted to grab Lily suddenly subconsciously reached out to cover his face. Lily then stretched out her hand to pull the car door open. Qin Zayanan, who was sitting in the back seat, looked very surprised at this time. He obviously did not expect that Lily would be pulled into the car without being drugged. He looked horrified at this moment and seemed to have not returned. After coming to his senses, he stared at Lily with his big eyes. Although he had already guessed that this might be Qin Zayanan's doing, at this moment he was really sure that it was him. After that, Lily calmed down. Without being disrespectful, Lily grabbed the big man on the ground who was covering his face and stiff with pain, and threw it towards Qin Zayanan. "Classmate Qin, take care of your people." Qin Zayanan cursed twice in the car, then quickly closed the door and drove away quickly after starting the car. Lily watched Qin Zayanan's car drive away. Caisi tidied his hair carefully and was about to pick up the bag he threw on the ground. I don't know when a black antique RV parked next to her again. Having just experienced what happened to Qin Zayanan, Lily's body stiffened, but a burst of applause came over. The blonde hair and blue eyes she hadn't seen for a long time. The young man got out of the car at some point. Now his slender figure was leaning on the car, reaching out and applauding. Very wonderful. I don't know how long he watched. Lily's tense body relaxed and nodded to him, thank you for the compliment. Waiting for the campus transportation bus, the young man asked. He went around to the side and opened the car door, making a greeting gesture. I originally wanted to have a chance for a hero to save the beauty, but now it seems that the princess does not need the prince's help to drive away the evil dragon. Run. The handsome young man looked relaxed and happy at this time. The sunlight shone on his skin, which was completely different from the Chinese. The slight smile at the corner of his mouth seemed to brighten. He patted the car door, and Lily smiled slightly. Stand up. Anyone who doesn't need to wait for a prince is naturally not a princess. Lily had vaguely guessed the identity of this young man in her mind, but she was just not sure yet. In the aristocratic school, there were not many people who could make Qinzayanan run away when he saw him. Apart from the third prince, there were not many people in the aristocratic school. His elegant behavior was obviously a sign of good education. Apart from the so-called crown prince of a certain European country, the Watson family, who are known as the most mysterious kings on campus, Lily really can't think of anyone else. But when she thought of the title of Heavenly King, Lily glanced at the young man and couldn't help but laugh again. The young man covered his mouth with a handkerchief and coughed twice before getting back into the car and starting the car. He seemed to be in a good mood today. Very good, he looked at Lily a few times. I have met people from the Lugoer family. Madam, do you need my help for what just happened? The Lugoer family is Qinzayanan's father's family. It can be said that they have friendship with the Lugoer family, and they use such a tone. Saying something that could solve this trouble for him also revealed the young man's identity, and he didn't seem to have any intention of hiding it. Qinzayanan blocked her way twice, and once pointed a gun at herself. Lily had already had some murderous intention towards him in her heart, but it didn't show it at all on her face at this time. She wanted to take revenge on herself, so that would both he could vent his anger for the original owner, and Lily didn't want to owe Watson any favors, so even if he took the initiative to ask for help, Lily shook her head and refused without thinking. Thank you for your kindness, but I think there may be a misunderstanding between everyone. Qinzayanan will realize this soon. When the young man heard Lily's words, he couldn't help but laugh softly. After once again thanking the real prince who was supposed to be mysterious and unpredictable on campus, Lily didn't enter the campus for a while and found that everyone looked at her strangely. People along the way were staring at her, as if they were taking advantage of her. Like the god of plague, he stayed away when he saw her passing by. When Lily returned to her office, the office door that was locked when she left last time was still locked. Fortunately, she was prepared and took out her own door from her bag. Carrying a small vise, he calmly opened the office and entered under the gaze of a group of teachers. After not coming for a while, the office was filled with dust, and the gun above was still there. Lily put the pistol into her bag, picked up a tissue and wiped the desk and chair. Just as she was about to close the door, Yu Liangzin, after entering the office hall outside, she saw Lily's office door locked. She was stunned for a moment, and then ran over here, shouting as she ran, Ziahe, I want to talk to you again about AAO. We can find a solution together about money, and we can't ruin AAO's life just because of money. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my greatest motivation.